Welcome, everyone, to the Twisted Bricks podcast. I'm extremely excited today to be joined by William of LOTW Studios and Seán Willis, aka Sillypenta, the host and co-host of the World of Brickfilms podcast, respectively. Both of them are stop-motion animators themselves. Both have taken huge steps in preserving the legacy of brick filming and making sure the classics are not forgotten. William and Seán, thanks so much for being with me.
Yeah, no worries. I must say it's kind of funny being the guest in this position. Usually, I'm doing my usual like, "Hello, everybody, welcome to the World of Brickfilms podcast,"
Yep.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
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 thanks for having us on. And, it is nice to be a guest because it means we don't have to feel bad about talking about ourselves.
yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
it's been such a pleasure discovering your podcast, and I have listened to every episode, most of them twice. It's incredible. It's incredible to have, while you're brick filming, because it's just
Mm.
to me, it's like to me, you guys have been kind of at the center of the beating heart of community building and culture building in the brick films community. And I know a lot of people are, have contributed in other ways as well, but just giving brick filmers a voice, hearing people actually discuss like the technical aspects, the cultural aspects, the history of brick filming, it just kind of has made it real for me in a way that, just watching brick films or just even chatting online or on Discord doesn't really do for me. So I'm so grateful for that. And I am excited to hear more about you guys personally and some of your opinions, even though again, some of them, I have my uh, ideas of how you might answer based on my many hours of listening, but I'm still eager to get more into it. So to kind of start, I wanted to just open with asking about how you two specifically ended up collaborating on this podcast. Did you know each other for a long time before the podcast got started? How did that all come to be?
well, I guess it's sort of like recapping because I mean it's been nearly in April. It will be the fifth anniversary of the podcast, which I cannot believe. I don't know where it's gone. That time's gone, but yeah, I mean I first knew Seán when I joined Bricks in Motion in 2015. Back when I was only 15 years old. And yeah, I mean, as someone who was like really active within, on the group chat and stuff, I knew him quite well from that. And it was around I think 2018 when Seán was just starting to do his like long running brick film history series, and obviously being very active on the wiki. And it was the Brick Film Day, the 45th anniversary of the first known brick film, the Journey to the Moon, I think. And there was obviously the big Brick Film Day event, which is every year now, and I did a timeline series of like going back to from 1973 up to sort of the present day, and Seán was a big help with helping me decide which films to feature in that series. And from there, I really like the idea of sharing films. I got really good response from that from people who they discover new brick films from that, and I really like the idea of showcasing classic brick films, and obviously that's kind of something which Seán sort of shared. Originally, I was doing it with Blacksmith Films, and another amazing brick filmer, but he kind of like, so I guess say life got in the way, but I guess like he had his own commitments and wasn't really able to do it regularly. So Seán sort of became the kind of the sort of the co-host after a couple episodes. And yeah, I guess
I think there's
that's
only one episode that I'm not on because I was the first
yeah.
guest and then I became the co-host on episode 3. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the really I guess it does go back to having this sort of shared desire to like keep brick film classics alive and discuss brick filming more as sort of culturally rather than just as like content.
Hmm.
And that goes back to in 2014 Nathan Wells spearheaded the effort to preserve brick film history and start up the Brickfilms wiki. I mean, the Brickfilms wiki, it existed but it wasn't being used, and he him and me started activity on it,
Hmm.
major activity. But so, and then William joined in 2015, And I mean, it's kind of funny because like everybody goes through this sort of period where they're new and they kind of get roasted. And like, I mean, I was kind of roasting them with the IRC in places like, but it passes.
Oh yeah.
People become good friends.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, yeah.
fascinating how friendships and relationships develop online as, compared to IRL. And I know it's been really interesting for me. I know I have a few people who started as fans who I now consider good friends. I've never met them in person, but or even collaborators, people who
Hmm.
I work with who just they thought the series that I did was cool and they wanted to help out. And they had skills and we found a way to make it work. And so it's really remarkable to see the brick filming community, how that's evolved. And I'm curious, were you guys there kind of at the start of the opening of the Bricks in Motion Discord server, or uh, I know, are you guys admins?
Well, the Discord opened in 2017. Previously, we had an IRC chat. IRC is like ancient chat client.
Okay.
Only one channel. And so the IRC chat was like basically just the old timers hanging out, and a couple of other people, I guess. I mean, okay, no, there was a good faction of people who joined around 2014 who were also active in the IRC chat, but it was pretty small, pretty insular. So like activity was still centered around the forum, but then Discord came along, and I I kind of like I hadn't really been on Discord much, but I just figured, I'll open a Bricks Emotion Discord and just see how it goes. And I think when I first opened it in 2017, I was afraid that all the IRC people would leave if I tried to move them over to Discord. So I was kind of positioning it as like, oh, it's not meant to be a replacement for the IRC chat. It's just another thing. But it just
Compliment.
basically immediately replaced the IRC chat. Everyone moved over and they liked it better because there was multiple channels. And of
Yeah.
course, it outgrew the IRC chat massively, and eventually took over as
Yeah.
the center of all activity. So now the forum is pretty quiet, but that's just because the Discord is active. And
Yeah.
like I'm in favor of sort of like rolling with where things are going. Like I'm not gonna try to hold on to like, oh, it's such a shame that the forum isn't as active as it once was. I always try to like keep at the forefront of my mind like, if Discord is the future of community online, then that's what we're focusing on. Like I'm not just gonna try to fight this losing battle of like get
Mhm.
everyone back on the forum, because forums are for boomers
Yeah.
at
I
this
think
stage.
it is interesting, just the way in which I think, like it kind of, you have to kind of. I mean, I think the way that, like, I think both Sean and me probably feel the same way, is that on one side you're trying to kind of preserve the history of, like, old classic brick films and really keep the relevance of them. So you're also looking to the past in that context, but you're also having to sort of think forward in terms of where are people wanting to hang out. Now I think when I first joined 2015, which really isn't that long ago, in the kind of history of brick films, it was still, you still had like the forums, and people still used to post on there regularly. But I think as it got to around 2017, 18, like that really was just like, it was not half of what it was, when I first
Yeah,
started,
it was
first joined.
massively declining. Yeah.
And I think it
Mhm.
was kind of that kind of realization that, like, you could try and, hold on to that and try and kind of make it something that people want to, where they want to be. But at the same time, if you're not willing to really be active on there, and no one else is, it's like it kind of feels like you're fighting a losing battle. And then suddenly you've got like a big community on Discord, and people are hopping from one community to the other, like people on Brick Film Day or on, you know the Brick Motion Discord, and same the other way around as well. And I think it's just the way things are going, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's first off, Sean, I had no idea you actually started the Discord server. That's really interesting. But also, I totally agree with you guys. It is a matter of you just have to adapt. Technology
Hmm.
is changing so absurdly quickly. Even like on a outside of community building level, on a brick filming level, it's weird because now almost everybody has access to professional grade software and hardware for a relatively affordable price, infinite tutorials on YouTube. And so the technical quality of brick films seems to just be on this kind of exponential curve.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, with that being said, uh, a lot of people are getting really good at brick filming really quickly, or even like at pretty young ages. What do you guys think what's a way that brick filmers can actually make their films kind of stand out, amidst all of these YouTubers? That's the million-dollar question, but what sets brick films apart these days?
I think if I knew the answer, like fully, I would let you know. I want to know the answers myself.
Well, for the longest time we've always, even though we kind of softened our like, how would I say it nicely? We kind of softened our elitism. It was the community
Mhm.
was previously a lot more elitist, but um, we still champion the idea of like making brick films just because you want to, and like not chasing views and trends. Like, we don't begrudge people who like hop on a trend or make videos that are obviously going to get more views than others, but we still like to tell people, like, if you're only doing it to try to get views, you're probably going to end up pretty unsatisfied. Like, at the end of the day, you have to be making something that like you're passionate about, where it doesn't really matter to you if it's only going to get a couple hundred views or if it's going to get 100,000.
Mhm.
But this is all to say essentially that for a while now I've kind of been, and this is just my perspective as somebody who's seen like infinite brick films for the past 15 years. Like, it's hard for me to take brick films seriously. And this sounds really bad, but like, obviously when I was like 11, I could watch like kind of serious brick films that were super well made, and I thought they were the most amazing things ever. And it's like a real movie, but it's Lego.
Mhm.
And obviously, I still like the old ones because I liked them. If you like it when you're a child, you're still gonna like it. But like, if obviously, yeah, the stuff that's really polished and pretty serious, but I just have this nagging thought in my mind now that's developed over the last few years where I'm like, but it's still Lego. Like, it's
Mhm.
pretty silly at the end of the day. Everyone has their painted smiles and all that. People. Uh, so I guess what I mean to say is what I like, what I look for, and this is just me again, just from my like. There's not a lot of people who would have the same perspective as I do because they don't have the same history. But what I'm looking for is like uh, entertaining or amusing concepts, particularly if they have a streak of like weirdness or irony, or like, I mean, I guess I think of the Biff and Mario films as like, obviously I love those. So those are like sort of the ultimate what I'd be looking for in a brick film, where it's like it knows it's goofy.
Yeah. Oh, it's got
Uh,
kind of the when I watch Biff and Mar, I showed my wife Taco Trouble 2, by the way. I love it so much. The whole like Biff and Mario series is hilarious to me. But it kind of has like the spirit of South Park, or something
hmm,
similar that really
yeah,
works with uh kind of a sillier animation style.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, more crude animation style. Like, yeah,
yeah,
it's a good comparison.
but
Where yeah, like even though they move like choppily, you can tell that it's meant to be like that, and it just plays into the Lego-ness and just the silliness of it.
yeah.
And obviously, I'm not saying that everyone should just go and animate 8 FPS and suddenly, oh, now you're one of the elite brick
Yeah.
filmers because you're making it
No.
look stupid.
Yeah.
But no, I basically I have a lot of complicated thoughts, and I'd probably very easily contradict myself with saying like, oh, I like this sort of concept, but I don't. But that would go against me having said that I don't like something else. But I guess I could be here all day, kind of explaining. I forget what the original question was, to be honest.
Yeah, just how people can make their brick films stand out. It is interesting what you say because in some ways I agree with you, but in some ways I disagree. My whole
Hmm.
channel is, of course, it's Twisted Bricks, so it's kind of got a bend towards like darker content. I have
Oh
guest
yeah.
animators like Max Osterholz, that he does this crazy dark kind of horror brick films. And him and I, we kind of just it's more of like just a medium to tell a story. And
Yeah.
it's definitely an unconventional choice to try to tell something that's supposed to leave you like with an emotional impact or creep you out or scare you. But it's interesting to see how people come to choose to do brick films with different
True.
motivations in mind.
Yeah. I do want to say like the question about like how to make brick films stand out. I would say like sort of like what William said. It's very hard to give an answer that just works generally. So I guess I can only speak to my own perspective and taste in answering a question like that.
Actually,
But
if I was
like
to kind
I
of,
do feel like
oh, sorry.
the like sort of gore films, it is sort of like a, a somewhat of a gag, you know, like it's like all this turbo ultra gore, but it's Lego. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does feel like it's on a similar sort of track as
yeah.
far
There's a
as doing
tongue in
something
cheek.
intentionally.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I think there's a certain amount that like, I think like, there's always a way I think that you can make something where you kind of, I guess almost forget it's Lego, or like it
Mhm.
still works despite the fact that it's kind of going for something really serious or whatever. But I think it's like you need to kind of really put into consideration like, um, I think tonal consistency, I guess, is also an important thing for storytelling in general. But also as well, I think you need to put effort into maybe things just like, I don't know, having the right faces. And this might sound funny, but like, and I've made this mistake myself. Something really serious, and you've got like this smiley face going on. Like if you ever see, I've seen like these sort of brick films where like you have like a corpse of someone and it's a smiley face, and I cannot take that seriously. Like it'd be this battlefield and there's like someone smiling, and you think, why are they smiling when they're dead? You know, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I think you can kind of get away with it. Like I think there's ways you can. I don't know. Like I think there is so much variety, and I have mixed opinions about like how diverse Lego is in terms of like the amount of bricks and types of variations of things. But I think in terms of like going for a specific tone, I think there were certain like yeah, it's like faces and stuff you can use where like I don't know, it kind of works better than just putting any old face on something.
Oh yeah.
I'm just trying to think about some films that I'd point to as good examples, and of course I'm still biased towards like the old ones that made an impact on me when I was younger. But I'm just thinking about Cognizance again, and Cognizance is sort of like one of those foundational brick films that's like its DNA just sort of it's like it's so simple but effective, and it came out at the right sort of time where it reminds me of just like a really old like a silent film or something where
Which film was that? What was the name?
Cognizance from 2005 by Comet Green is like one of the most well-known classics in the brickfilms.com era.
Oh.
Um, but I'm sort of reminded of I'm thinking of old silent films where like there's something so simple, but then they get to a point where they actually resonate, or like the movements are super exaggerated and comical looking, even in serious ones, but it just feels like a sort of, I guess, expressionistic expression, like
Hmm.
kind of just raw. Uh, I have an idea in mind, but I'm not sure how to articulate it. Where it's 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 just like a slice of bread or something, where it's just like so,
It's
you know,
cohesive.
it's like simple, but you couldn't imagine it being anything else. Like, or you could make other things with it, but it always comes back to the original. I'm thinking of like, let's say for example, I mean, I'm actually not huge into Charlie Chaplin films in general, but the best ones, like a bunch of goofy stuff happens, and it's all very broad and comical and exaggerated, but they get to a point where it actually resonates.
Yeah.
And I guess I feel like something as simple as Cognizance, even though it's still serious, it works on a similar sort of level of just being
Hmm.
like a pure expression. So you don't really care that it's Lego because it's not trying too hard. It doesn't have like a bunch of self-serious dialogue and such.
Yeah, it
if
sounds if you have like if whatever serious message or undertones you might have are in harmony with the comedy, it can work. If I'm
Hmm.
or maybe that's
But
one way
I
of
mean, well,
looking at it.
it's not a comedy film, but I just feel like it just doesn't lean too far into um, like trying coming across as if it's trying to be more than it is.
Yeah.
It just conveys an idea or an emotion. I think that's
Yeah.
ultimately what it comes down to. Similar to how like, but yeah, old expressionist stuff conveys an idea very directly. And it
I
might
think there
look
is.
goofy, but because of the simplicity of it, it conveys it easily.
I feel like there is something in like the way in which something that isn't a comedy can have a certain amount of sort of like a timing or like a tone, which feels like it's got the same kind of ingredients of like a comedy, if that makes sense. Like the kind
Mm.
of timing and the kind of like not a gag exactly, but like kind of like
Well, Cognizance is
stuff.
basically the letter, but with a serious plot.
Yeah, like it has those kind of elements to it. I was just trying to think back to, I guess, I'm going to try and make it about myself, but the Track Attract, which is obviously quite a serious film, but I think there is some kind of humor in it, just in terms of the way in which the time, the way the kind of the things that happen, and also like, the kind of like
The way the shots
the
cut
punch,
together.
like, oh yeah, almost like the kind of almost like a gag in a way, where you introduce. I mean, it's a Chekhov's gun thing, but you introduce something and then it comes back. It kind of is sort of humorous in a sense, even if it's sort of serious. Like it has the kind of beats of a comedy almost,
Hmm.
and I think so. There's that kind of thing, and also I think like if you look at Lego as almost like an animation style that is quite kind of cartoony, like almost like I don't know, like say like it's like a Pixar film or something. I mean, obviously, there's a lot that they can do. The good ones, they can actually, sort of touch your heart, I guess. So there's ways that you can resonate with people and have something that's meaningful, even if it's got that kind of art style. But I think it's just knowing what you're doing, I guess, with the tone, I guess.
One I really liked from this year was The Time Ship by Yetgo, which we saw at Steiner Eye in person. But
Oh wow.
The Time Ship, it it did that sort of the concept that I was trying to get at, where it just sort of like projected the emotion uh, into you, and it's very much inspired by Studio Ghibli films, and I guess I'd say those are probably a good comparison. Where, obviously they're animated, and anime characters have pretty simplistic, cartoony sort of art style, but Studio Ghibli films resonate really, really strongly with people, and I wish I could articulate sort of why it would work for those, but not so much for others. But I guess just go and watch Studio Ghibli films and think about them, think
Yeah,
about why it works.
that's a really interesting point because I feel like um, anime is a genre in general that just it really appeals to some people, but some people don't
Mm,
understand it and hate it and just can't put up with it. And honestly, to each their own.
hmm
But a thing that's kind of at the foundation of anime is it's extremely expressive. It is almost every, well, maybe I shouldn't generalize as much. A lot of anime have like very silly components. They've
mm,
got the like chibi faces or like it gets very cartoony, overly cartoony sometimes. Even like really dark mangas or anime like Berserk, where there's a ton of bloodshed and violence
mm.
and just profound darkness, still comes back to some very silly elements on a pretty regular basis. So that's an interesting, like, maybe parallel that it could have with brick filming potentially,
Yeah.
where it's like there is a part, the medium does influence the way the storytelling is told. It doesn't mean it can't have an emotional impact, but it does influence how the story is told, I guess.
Yeah, I guess there's certain anime series and films that kind of transcend, and they sort of like escape that sort of, oh, it's anime. Like,
Yeah,
people stop regarding it like, oh, it's just anime. That
yeah,
couldn't be serious. Like,
yeah.
I
yeah, Studio
guess
Ghibli and Akira and Neon Genesis Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop.
Hmm.
People don't treat those like they're just anime.
Just yeah, definitely.
I think if I was to add just something, I guess one more thing to that, just from my own experience, because quite often, yeah, these kind of if you have like discussions about the kind of like the tone and stuff, and I think to myself, God, a lot of my films are kind of like sort of going more towards the serious side, but then I do think then about like a lot of my films, like I feel like I really like the kind of things films like Mission Impossible where I think there was something inherently ridiculous about them, just like the all the gadgets and like the things, the fact that you can, I don't know, you can have this face mask and all this kind of stuff, but it kind of doesn't matter, and I really love it. and also they can be really serious, and they can be kind of like, yeah, have some really kind of like points where they're quite, yeah, stuff is happening is quite dark. But I think like I really like films like that where they do have a kind of ridiculous side to it, and I think that's kind of how I look at like I guess my Ant-Man films. Like I think there's a lot of stuff in it that's kind of like, and I've tried to kind of like really weigh in more like in my later sort of Ant-Man films. I know like flying vans and all this kind of stuff is kind of crazy, and kind of embracing the craziness whilst also being kind of like still having those bits that are serious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Come to think of it, I also want to mention Perfect Blue and Satoshi Kon's other films. That's my list of anime that you won't get beat up for liking.
Yeah. No, well, like you said, pretty much everything Studio Ghibli seems to be like at least acceptable in some way. I haven't seen Perfect Blue. That's new to me. But I'm marking it down. Uh, it's interesting, and yeah, William, you said earlier, like not to talk too much about myself, but remember, you guys are the guests this time, so you can talk about yourselves all you want. But not to talk too much about myself, but personally, when I when I started my kind of like, I guess, for lack of a better word, landmark series, the Lego Zombie Apocalypse, it started off very silly, pretty gory, lots of violence, lots of killing zombies, but at its heart, it was just kind of funny and just a fun ride. And then like people started really liking it, and fans, they're connecting with these characters. Like, okay, this is fun. Uh, and then I realized like I can I didn't want it to be like everybody's invincible and it's just this kind of like happy-go-lucky ride. I actually wanted to raise the stakes. And so I'm not going to say who in case of spoilers, but I ended up killing off a major character. And the reaction from my fans was wild. Like people were really injured by the fact that I'd done this, like kind of pulled the rug on them. But at the same time, it seemed like people got a lot more invested in the series and like it left an emotional impact. And I think that kind of memorialize the film in some of their minds. And a lot of old fans will come back and say, I used to watch this all the time as a
Yeah.
kid, which is really interesting to see. But yeah, it is a remarkable kind of fine line or I guess to explore just, how dark, how light, and what is that going to look like?
I
But
mean, yeah,
I think there's a kind of like I guess an investment the audience have had, seeing the series continue, even if it started off kind of more on the silly side.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get away with having a lot more sort of like darker elements, or like more kind of like I guess, yeah, things like that. Where you kind of really can make those sort of characters mortal, and people can generally be invested in it because this is a series they care about, and these are characters they've kind of I guess grew up watching. I guess to an extent.
Yeah.
It's that investment, isn't it? I think you need to kind of make people care about the series first, and then you can get creative and sort of I guess just experiment. I guess.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I do always try to like be conscious of the fact that my snob opinions are, they're always coming from the perspective of somebody who's very unusual in brick filming, who's been around for too long, and really should just go and watch real films. But what I want to say is, like, at the end of the day, yeah, our audience is going to be younger people. So, like people making stuff that appeals more to younger people it's gonna find its audience. There's gonna be
Yeah.
a bigger audience for it. So that's like a good idea.
Yeah.
um. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, speaking of like real films, do you guys actually, I don't know. Are you guys in film school, or are you going to study film, or did you go? Do you see yourselves having a future in, do you see yourselves doubling down on brick filming as a hobby, or pursuing like live action film as a career? What are your guys' relationships with filmmaking, looking ahead, I guess?
Well, I studied film for 3 years. I graduated in April,
Right on.
and currently I'm kind of doing a lot of work in live action and stop motion animation. I want to branch out into more of a career kind of freelance stuff, which I've done in the past as well. Looking at like other forms of stop motion animation, not just Lego.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly going into other forms of animation as well, like 2D and 3D, but not sure if I'd do that yet. Possibly, I guess it's possible. A kind of combination of that and also live action video editing as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
And well, I'm happy to just keep brick filming as a hobby, and I mean, I guess I could leverage some knowledge of filmmaking or animation, but I've not really looked to that as as something to do in the future. I think I guess what I should do is work with animals, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think I'm happy to just keep film and animation and brick filming as purely a hobby. I mean, unless I got some random commission or whatever. Like I did make that one video for Lego, so I was happy about that. But yeah, I wouldn't like to think of it as something that is now incurring pressure.
Definitely.
I think that's a good point. I think in terms of Lego, I generally see that as a hobby. I think that like the more obviously I 17-year-old me gave me this real commitment, which I'm still having to pay for, which is Yap Man season 2. And this is going to be a couple more years of my life doing that, and I'm also I absolutely love it and I care a lot about it. But I think once that's done, I see the kind of brick film side of things as being more taking up less of my time and possibly doing more other forms of stop motion animation, and maybe brick filming being more of a I went to Brawl every year or something.
Yeah, Brawl and Pack
I
are
think
great for keeping people around, and
Yeah.
it's this nice thing that they're tied to, and they show back up each year.
Yeah.
I think
Keeping the skills sharp.
more and more I'm kind of I really just like the idea of getting films out there in like real life,
Yeah,
doing like
festivals.
film festivals, and obviously there is a kind of a feeling of like, and this is something like Steinway, which is specifically Lego. There will see some like, I guess legal side of things. It makes it a bit more difficult going into some film festivals. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'd really like to do some other forms of stop motion animation and submit them to film festivals, and that's what I'm kind of thinking about really.
But yeah, you mentioned how starting a series has become sort of a weight around your neck. Like I feel the same way with the history series. I sort of started that on a whim, and now each one is taking years to make. Well, I mean, it's not years working on it, but sort of working up to the point where I'm actually willing to put in all that work again for another video. Yeah, I guess. But when I started it in 2018, and the first one was only like 10 minutes long, I probably thought that I might be pretty much done the classic brickfilms.com era by now, but I've barely scratched the surface of it.
Yeah, I'm very curious. So are you working on one now, or do you have plans to like cover like brick film history like up to date? Is there a plan there?
I mean, realistically, the fact that there's so much time between each one, and it just feels like such a great effort to make these things, and realistically I'm probably not going to get for much further than brickfilms.com if I even get past it. I had this idea in mind that I'd cover the classic brickfilms.com era really in depth, really thoroughly, and then I wanted to make like one on early YouTube and simultaneously early Bricks in Motion, and sort of the crux of that one would be like the Bricks in Motion community who had grown out of the brickfilms.com community, and because they've been around longer than YouTube, they were like now kind of insular, and the Bricks in Motion people were way better filmmakers by this point because they'd been around for so much longer. And then all this stuff started popping up on YouTube that was getting more views, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is getting more views, but it's bad. It's poorly made. It's all high angle and crappy animation." So there became two separate worlds in the early years of YouTube, because until it sort of dissipated once the quality standard of people getting popular on YouTube rose. But I liked the idea of making a history video that where the crux of it would be, sort of these two separate worlds on opposite ends that don't really that didn't really interact with each other much, and there was animosity between them because like the BIM people didn't like that the YouTube people got more views, and the YouTube people didn't like that the BIM people said that their films were crap.
Yeah.
It's like a tale of two brick films.
Yeah. And then so I was kind of thinking that I'd end the series at 2012. Because that's sort of like when there was like this sort of original YouTube Star Wars scene of people like Darth Milo and Swogastu and Inglis 93 and there's a whole bunch of names I could rattle off. Pizza Movies, of course. And they seem to basically all quit in 2012. Like the whole thing just seemed to drop off very neatly. So I was thinking that my early BIM and early YouTube combined video would end there, but that would just be like the ultimate odyssey. Like there's so much to dig through as far as the history of early victims on YouTube goes. I can't imagine. It's very hard to see myself actually making that one. So
Yeah, and I'm sure like there'd probably even you'd almost get emotionally exhausted. This is just me speculating, but like you having to choose what's worth showing and what's worth
Oh
preserving in
yeah,
the video. It's like you're taking on the role of a judge in some
it's
ways, and that's
true.
not an
Yeah.
easy role.
So basically,
think
I have a script written that is 2002 and 2003 history on brickfilms.com. It's like I'd say 98 or 99% a finished script. But what's been holding me back is that like my computer is kind of old and dying, and it wouldn't be able to handle a gigantic editing project. So I have a bunch of parts now. I need to make a new computer build, and once I do that, I plan to really knuckle down and actually make the next history video before it gets to a point where it feels like the history series is just ancient and dead.
Yeah. I you said you don't want to like say some brick films are bad and some are good. I will say the way that whole kind of thing was handled in the iceberg video, where
Oh
the
yeah,
the narrators were reading the reviews in like snobby
yeah,
voices, and oh my God, it was so funny. I
yeah.
could not get over it.
I mean, nowadays we always talk about it as like when we look back at it and see how seriously people took it, it's comical. Like
Yeah.
we recognize it's comical, even if we were the people who were writing those posts. It's just so silly. Like they're taking Lego videos so seriously, and I mean I did the same until like relatively recently, probably second half of the 2010s. I kind of realized that I shouldn't be taking Lego videos like and drama seriously. But yeah, we were very happy to like portray how the community genuinely felt at the time, but yeah, rib them with the snob voice and the classical music, because we do recognize it was all very comical.
I think as well. I mean, I think that this going back into like talking about Discord and stuff. I feel like going onto Discord and seeing the way that people generally communicate on there, it really kind of highlighted just how ridiculous some of the kind of forum kind of like sort of I guess conversations were, like the way that things were written. Like just imagining the idea of like someone writing like as a forum post on Discord would just be inherently hilarious. So
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, you are right that if I do get to that point of trying to cover YouTube and Bricks in Motion history, yeah, you're right that it would involve a lot more picking and choosing, because when I made the last one I made was 2000 and 2001, the first half of the Jason era, and the next video I make will be the second half of the Jason era. But my goal with that one was to find a slot for pretty much every single brick film that was added to the Brickfilms directory in the time frame I was covering, and I was pretty much I got almost everything that's found in there. And I would have had a similar goal in mind with the 90s video and the 70s and 80s video, where it's like everything I have found from those decades, because there's so little to find, relatively speaking. I wanted to slot in pretty much every last one that I had to hand. And again, like I basically did that with those videos. So yeah, I hadn't really considered that before, but yeah, it is true that once I get past the Jason era, there's just so many more films that's not going to be possible anymore.
Yeah.
it's like how do you make a focus kind of centralized video about a period of brick film history where it was no longer centralized. That's the thing, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah,
Basically.
it's super interesting because obviously, like prior to the internet, you had these brick films that were kind of coming into being, all over the place. And the people making them would have zero contact,
Hmm.
maybe ever in some cases. But obviously, they're all put together in your review films, which is pretty incredible to see them. You can just watch them one after the other. But then you have like early internet, and you have, what, a handful of websites where people were sharing these, or sometimes you'd see
Hmm.
them on a different like video sharing website.
Yeah.
But now like YouTube is just this, even though YouTube is this like one place where it seems like everything is posted, there's so much content. You have these communities and
Hmm.
micro communities and these like niche communities where it's like, you know, Bricks in Motion is, to me, again, it's like kind of the cultural center of uh, really invested brick filmers who care about the craft. But there are a lot of other brick filming communities out there. Even like,
Yeah, yeah, there's loads.
look at like Forest Fire. He's basically his own community.
Hmm.
The people who
And
like Forest Fire
Edbound as
film.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I
And
mean, he has his
Panza
own
Hat. I
Discord, and
know.
like Edbound streams have so many people talking in the chat, and yeah, but this is something that we, especially more recently, we've started to talk about. Um, because brickfilmers.com was, you could identify that as being a singular center. Like people posted their brickfilms on their own personal websites, and then they went and shared them on brickfilms.com. So like there was
Mhm.
brickfilms on multiple websites, but they're mostly people's personal websites, and then they had to go to brickfilms.com to get anyone to see them.
Hmm.
Before, well, I mean, okay, I mean, I could go on tangents, but but because the brickfilms.com, the switch over happened where we moved to Bricks in Motion, and that occurred at a very similar point in time as to when YouTube was on the rise. Like YouTube was around for a couple of years before it was really gigantic. So
Hmm.
so like by the time we became Bricks in Motion, we I feel like for a long time the community held on to this notion of like, this is the single ultimate destination. But
Hmm.
obviously that just wasn't true anymore because of how much bigger the internet was becoming at that very, very same point in time. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, you, I guess to us we still feel like the ultimate center, and we have the members that go back 20 years in some cases, like Jay Silver and Smeagol and Jared
Hmm.
Gilbert. But I really had to sort of break out of that mindset, like very intentionally. I had to break out of that mindset of thinking that we're the number one, I guess.
The ultimate. Yeah.
I don't, it's not possible anymore. It's not a thing that's ever going to happen
Yeah.
again. Like there's never going to be a single brick film destination. There's going to be multiple communities spread out, and that's fine.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, and I'm quite active in a lot of the other ones as well. And yeah, I just think that's because the internet expanded so much. That's what happened. And yeah, it was like going back to what I was saying about like moving to Discord. We just have to accept uh, how the times change, and try. I always like to think of it in terms as playing the hand you're dealt.
Hmm.
Work with what you have and what's happening, rather than saying I wish we had it back like how it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean a lot of YouTube brick filmers had to adopt that mindset, with algorithm changes and just brick films in general struggling for views. And not to beat a dead horse that's been discussed over and over again, but uh, the the fact of brick films of just incredible quality going like painfully underviewed on YouTube, and just
Hmm.
like unnoticed by mainstream audiences is pretty chronic like these days. And
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder if you guys have any thoughts, like, do you think there is an ideal situation or solution that fixes it or ameliorates it in some way, or does view count matter?
I'm
It's
so jaded because we've been talking about this for 15, 16 years at this stage.
Mhm.
Because, as I was talking about, like when the YouTube videos started to get more views than the brickfilms.com films, and everyone was so enraged and so serious and like, oh, this is an outrage. This crappy Lego Counter-Strike has more views than these masterpieces like Frankenstein and Grace by Nosnivoris. But it's like, I've just gotten over it entirely. Like that's just, I don't care.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, we all know that if you have Lego Star Wars in your title, it's going to get more views. I don't care.
My God.
Like, if people want to make original films, then just make original films. And if like we're just happy to make original films and get a few hundred views and nice comments from the community, and like, especially being plugged into the community, it just feels nice to like, it feels more meaningful than getting hundreds of thousands of views to me.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I guess, talking about that, dealing with the hand you're dealt with, isn't it? But I think it's as well, like, because obviously this has been something that I've been thinking about the entire time I've been doing it. And like me, when I started out, like pretty much like a lot of people who start out when they're young, they're thinking like, oh, how do I get the views? And that's like the main thing on your mind. Like, oh, I need to make things that like, are going to get stuff. And I think it's comes to a point of like, are you doing this as your hobby, or are you is this your career? Like, what is the, if your main kind of driving force for like, or your main kind of like, if you're putting your main energy into what's other people going to like and what's popular, then you're not doing it for yourself, and you're doing stuff that's safe. You're not doing stuff that's like, I guess, new, or like, what you want to do, and it's essentially, I think, I want the moment that I got out of the mindset of thinking like I'm doing this for views and started saying I'm just going to do what I want to make and hopefully people like it. It just something that it was a freeing, really, like, because I just stopped like caring about it. I think I just felt like I'm going to gain an audience of people, even if it's small, by just making the things I want to make, because people are going to like that stuff. And now, I mean, I just got to like 1,000 subscribers recently. It's 8 years of work, but I just kind of think like, I don't know. I mean, a lot of my views get more views than they used to get 200 views, and they get 800 views, and people seem to like them, and then like I'm really enjoying making them, and I just think like, I don't know. I just feel happy in doing that. I feel like this is something that I've been thinking about a lot of time. I really want to make a video at some point, and I've been saying this probably for the last like couple of years. I really want to make a video that's just basically just saying like, when people comment things like, oh, this is so underrated, you should have, 500 times the views or whatever, I just feel like, hey, don't worry about it, I know, and that's fine. I don't mind, like, and it's not really something I even think about, because, I feel like there is something at the end of that where it's just like, I don't know, there's something really positive just about like, hey, you don't have to worry about this stuff. If it only gets like 100 views, those 100 people might have really enjoyed it, and also like you've made something you enjoy. That's the most important thing, I guess.
It reminds me of something else that we often say. Sometimes people are like, oh, I need to make more content. I need to have, X number of uploads per month, and I need to grow a YouTube channel and get money. And we always tell them, like, if you want to be a successful YouTuber, like, trying to do it with brick films is just the wrong way to go about it. Like, if that's your end goal, you should have a different medium of video. So like, to me, it's like the question of how do you get more views on original brick films? The answer is just you don't.
Yeah.
Like, can you accept the fact that you won't get those views by making an original brick film? If you're okay with that, then just do what you want. Make what you want to make.
Yeah. Well, I think you can see a qualitative difference between films that were made out of inspiration, rather than films that were like calculated and it was decided, this should get a lot of views. And sometimes there's a crossover there that works, but it is endlessly depressing to me that the most viewed brick film on YouTube is a frame by frame recreation of freaking Shark Attack. Like this. And
well, that's what I mean. It's like that. I would have agreed like 10 or 15 years ago, but nowadays I'm like, it doesn't surprise me. Like, of course a YouTube Kids video is going to be the most viewed brick film. So who cares?
I mean, it's kind of like, it's a bit like when people complain about music, like popular music, or like the mainstream films. It's like, well, of course, like the most popular things are going to be the things which are like the most appealing to the biggest audience of people. like you want to make something
Mm-hmm.
niche, like I don't know, um, like The Lighthouse isn't going to be the highest grossing film of all time,
Mm-hmm.
um, but then it was never going to be one of those films that's going to be, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it's the same with, I don't know, like there's lots of like really great music that's being released today, and the fact that it's not in the, I don't know, top 100 or whatever, I mean, doesn't really matter. If you care about it, you should go beyond that, you know.
Yeah.
I always feel
Yeah, I
like
think that's
clarifying whenever we get on a sort of topic like this. Like, we don't think of IP brick films as inherently worse or lesser.
I
Like,
I do. I'm
uh,
just kidding. You guys, people can go make IP brick films, but I'm probably not going to watch them.
I
Go
mean,
on.
they are much more likely to be less interesting to me, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't blanketly think of them as inherently they can't be that interesting to me. Like, I love Ed stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
yeah,
Kind of parody stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
And God, I think, how do I want to express myself here? I think I have a kind of a salty wound that
Mm,
started a long time ago regarding IP brick films because I just had, I think I maybe made one or two, back in the day, like a Star Wars clone shootout or something like that. But um, like current me has just zero interest
hmm
in animating, Iron Man doing his Iron Man stuff. It doesn't appeal to me, and I have
Yeah.
no interest in watching them either. I can respect that there are some incredibly well done like IP brick films out there. I mean, you, this one is Captain America Nazi Zombies 3, obviously.
That's
That
amazing.
yeah,
one had a pretty huge impact on me. It just blew my mind. And there are some like, on Beat Man, he did that collaborative project where he recreated the trailer for Top Gun, which like from a technical standpoint, it's a masterpiece. It's really unreal to see what he's done. And of course, Forest Fire does IP brick films all the time that are really, really impressive and
hmm
fun to watch.
I think
But
far as IP action stuff is like genuinely well directed, uh,
yeah, yeah.
on a level that most brick films aren't. And like, yeah, obviously I don't want to name any names, but I would agree that there are plenty of, well, not even necessarily exclusively IP, but IP brick films or just like fight scene brick films with no additional plot. There's plenty of those where they're like extremely expertly executed, like the highest possible production values, the smoothest possible animation, but they just leave me cold.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
nothing against the people who make them or the people who like them, but they, for me, it just doesn't do it.
Yeah. That's a
well, I
good way
think
to
it's,
put it.
yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of feels like a YouTube video rather than a film. That's the thing, that difference. I think it's like if you saw a short film that literally was just a fight scene, you'd think, well, that's a cool video. You wouldn't think it's
Hmm.
like a,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think I do want to also clarify just because I feel like I think there's been whenever we talk about IP based films, I'm always kind of trying to be as clear as I can about like I
Yeah.
don't know, not that I'm not really a snob. I don't really like
Yeah,
care because I feel like
we've been battling the snob allegations for 15 years.
Yeah.
and
So
I
we
just
get
kind of
really
feel
touchy
like
about it, whereas we have to clarify a million
Yeah.
things.
Backpedal, backpedal.
yeah, yeah. I feel like there is something in the fact that like I think people are going to be drawn and going to be inspired from different things. Like you might have like I was inspired to make specifically brick films because I saw the Lego Movie. And I think some people are just gonna really just want to find a way to make something fun, and like I think like I don't know, Lego Iron Man or Batman, whatever it will be. I mean, it's fan fiction, and it's a way of doing it that's like I don't know, they get seen, and I
Mhm.
think like I don't know, I can see why. I think like if you make something and you feel proud of it, you should feel proud of it. Like if you've put work into it, and I think that like you could start off. I think everyone starts off thinking I want to be exactly like this person, this animator, or
Mhm.
this whatever, and then as you're continuing to grow and hone your skills, you start to realize your own identity, who you want to be
Yeah.
as an animator or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think like yeah, I think for a lot of people it's like if you're starting off and you're making Lego Star Wars, Lego Batman or whatever, like I think like keep doing the things you're enjoying doing, and you might end up just continuing to primarily do like a Star Wars stuff or Batman stuff.
I mean, yeah,
But
so some people can
if you've
hold
got
on
to a
to
level,
it. Like some people
yeah,
make it their own. You know, they bring their own style to it. Like we love Brick Tavern Films, Lego Batman, Killer Croc. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
And obviously, Brotherhood Workshop with Lord of the Rings videos. I mean, they are incredible to watch, and they're a ton of fun. And he does add his own little touch to it. Um, and you know, I any like young listeners who just made like an Iron Man brick film, I'm not shitting on you, or maybe I should. If you're young, I probably should use different terminology. But I really think like whatever brick films you want to make, like to grow your skills or to express yourself, like it's fine. It just comes to a matter of personally what trade-offs do you want to make. Like I look at even like beyond IP, just like the type of content to make. I look at Michael Hickox and with envious eyes his subscriber count. It's like just like pretty mind-blowing. But would I ever want to dedicate my time to making those kinds of films? Absolutely not. He makes it work for him, and I assume he enjoys it. But it's like I can't be uh, salty. I can't be hold a grudge against him or anyone else because it's my own choice
mhm.
to animate what I do and to tell the stories I do.
Yeah.
So good luck to anybody. But if you make IP brick films, I might not watch them.
Yeah, I mean, at some
I
point I
also
did. I realized, like, I was thinking back on my filmography, and I was thinking to myself, "Wow, I've literally never made a Star Wars brick film." And that wasn't a conscious effort to not, but it just wasn't
Yeah.
for me, I guess.
I think as well. Just again, I think we already talked about Forest Fire, but like he is a prime example of someone like he started off making, films that a lot of people didn't like,
Mhm. A lot of people
that were kind
roasted
of like very much
absolutely
like a kid's.
mercilessly. Yeah.
Yeah, like it felt like, oh, this is a kid making net zero effort on these Batman IP based films, and then he continued making IP based brick films, but then he kind of just continued. This it's just a result of like years and years of honing his craft to the point where he's making Nazi Zombies 3. So you can't argue that he didn't gain so much skill and talent
Yeah.
through just making IP based brick films.
Yeah.
And also as well, just to again, I did briefly mention, I don't know, like I think because everything about like any kind of mainstream thing is gonna have this thing. I just feel like it's like these comment sections where you've got like some sort of like, I don't know, old band from like the 80s that like not many people have heard of, and it'll be like, oh, this is back when they made good music, like, oh, screw, like, I don't know, Dua Lipa because she's like popular or whatever. It's like, you don't have to do that. Like it's just a waste of time and energy. Like you can enjoy that band and
Yeah.
you can enjoy Dua Lipa
Yeah, I
and
mean,
like
we probably all remember the era on the internet where literally every music video and every upload of a song had comments like, "Oh, this is so much better than Justin Bieber. Screw Justin Bieber."
Oh my God, yeah.
It's so
It was a
tiresome.
plague.
You don't have
It is
to
funny looking.
bring it up on every song.
Yeah, it is funny, it's a overused expression, but hindsight really is 2020. Just like looking
Hmm.
back at, like you said, on the forums too, the things we used to say. I remember I I actually didn't really get my start with brick filming. It was more just like the Flickr community of sharing your mocks, your builds. That's where I was obsessed, and I spent so much time there, in my preteen years, just sharing and what I built and looking at other people's creations. But I remember when I was probably, 12 years old, I commented on a build, and I still regret this comment to this day. It was, it was, do you guys remember Legoholic on Flickr? I can't remember his last name, but it was Tyler something. He was I think the first place winner in Lego Masters, um, the first season, if you guys have seen that. But he had these incredible like apocalypse builds, and in one of them there was a kind of tank thing that was shooting this like acid sludge, or just like toxic sludge. And somebody commented, uh, the oh, it's really cool that whatever it's shooting this sludge. And my idiot brain thought it was appropriate to call this person the R word because it was obviously acid, dude. And then Tyler commented, "Hey, it can be whatever you want it to be," and he handled it so well. But like, it was just it's crazy to
Mhm.
me that I could ever have thought that saying something like that
Oh yeah.
was in any way warranted or appropriate. It's just so we all do
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
just like it's a result of just being online and for too
Mm.
long, and you just like realize. I know it's like tired old thing of touch grass, but it is kind of true. Like I think
Yeah.
sometimes we get so kind of like fixated on something, I don't know, like on social media or whatever, and like we'll just be like just obsessed with something which is just at the grand scheme of things pretty meaningless and doesn't actually affect your life in any way.
And
And
also,
you
I
just
mean,
think,
I think people are
how did I
very,
do
very
this?
willing to like give you the benefit of the doubt and like understand that if something's 10 years old or more, you're obviously a different person by now. But yeah, of course,
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, we all do. We still think of some old YouTube comment we posted or some old argument on the forum or on the chat, and we're like, man, I wish I didn't post that, or I wish I was less of a dick dealing
Yeah.
with that, or yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that one of the things that to this day I still think about. It was a forum. It was on Bricks in Motion. It was in 2017. It was during the release of Lego Batman movie, and Lego had announced they were making these small like Lego stop motion sets. They were very very basic. It was just like basically like a phone holder thing and like like a minifigure and like a prop so you could move them kind of thing. And my snob brain at the time was thinking, oh, I don't want to see brick films come on Main Street and you have even more people doing brick films. For some reason, I thought that was a negative.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's only so many viewers out there, and now they're going to be going all over the place. So
Actually,
that's good.
one more thing I do want to say about that idea of like hindsight being 2020 and such.
Hmm.
I, I I still get the feeling of like things that happen in the current day that feel important in the moment. Like while they're happening, I sometimes catch myself thinking, I know in like 5 or 10 years time I'm gonna look back on this and think it was so silly, some
Hmm.
drama that occurred. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess you still have to deal with it while it's current. But I just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All you can
It's annoying
control
to
is,
it's annoying to know fine well that in the future I'll just look back at it as like, well, that was stupid.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, on that, like that kind of leads to an interesting, or it opens a door to a conversation about just time management and like just planning for the future as a brick filmer. I remember watching the Bricks in Motion documentary,
Hmm.
and you've seen other people comment on this, but I think it's Jay Silver who says something like, he wanted to make like a long form brick film,
Pilot
but he
brick
thought,
film.
oh, that could take me 10 years, and I can't even imagine start the imagine starting it. But then 10 years later, he's like, man, if I'd started it, I'd be done by now.
Yeah, and it's not like he was making all that many other brick films because yeah, he has like two of the all-time ultimate Stone Cold classics in The Gauntlet and Rise of the Empire from '01 and '02. But then after
Hmm.
that, yeah, he's got a hand that gave him just legend status for eternity.
Yeah.
He's got a handful of other Rick films, and of course he voice acts for like everyone. He's so good for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he still occasionally says things like, "Oh yeah, I've been thinking about making another Rick film," and I'm like, "Yes, please do, please, come
Yeah.
on."
Come
But
on, man.
it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, and he works in the film industry now, right?
Yeah, he's an animation director for Netflix
Yeah,
shows for
jeez.
kids.
That's incredible.
Hmm.
I'd be curious to like pick his brain on that. Like you guys were saying, very content keeping brick filming a hobby in your lives. I think for the vast majority of people, brick filming is either a hobby or a stepping stone into, a
Hmm.
film career where it like helps you gain really a good grasp of just the rudimentary skills in a lot of different aspects of filmmaking. But then you do have that like minute percentage of people who actually turn it into something that is profitable,
Yeah.
or attempt or just dedicate themselves to it. One
I
example of that is LOTW Studios. What he's trying to do with Wandering Skies is really pretty incredible, and it seems to me to be on the cutting edge of what's possible to do with brick filming.
I just wanted to add, actually, just add then, just in terms of like, I think I like the stepping stone thing,
Hmm.
because I feel like this is something that I feel like a lot of people, I want to kind of, I want people to kind of be aware of, like, because I mean, there is this kind of thing of like people who, there's been some people who like they will, try and like I don't know become, I guess more like quote unquote serious, or they want to kind of like have they think the Lego stuff is kind of embarrassing. But I think like if you're proud of your work, like your Lego stuff, it can go a long way. Like it's basically got me everywhere that I've
Mhm.
I've gone. Like it got me into university.
Mm.
Like I literally didn't really have qualifications. I mean, I was homeschooled, as many brick filmers are,
Mhm.
and I didn't have any qualifications really, like at all. And I just had this brick film, Wayward Tides, which I made for the summer contest in Spirit of Adventure in 2017. And I had my interview at the film school, and I was like, "There's no, I just there was no way they're going to accept me. Like, why would
Yeah.
they? You know?" And then I just, the lecturer, he just said, the guy who was interviewing me was like, if you had one film that you were to show, your life depended on it, what would it be? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to show this. And then after watching it, he said, "We want you on in the
Wow.
university," and that was it. Like the next day, I got the unconditional offer,
Mhm.
Wow.
um, and like yeah, I mean, basically, just brick filming has got me everywhere that I've got to at this point. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and also
Yeah.
with me, like at some point, people started saying like, all that work you've done on the wiki, like you could show that to people, and like that's impressive and relevant to other areas. And I was like, huh. I guess it is. I never thought about that before. I
Yeah.
was just doing it.
Yeah. No, it's wild. Like you don't know what doors can be opened until you start to walk down the hallways, you know. It's there's Yeah, that's how actually end sentence.
Mhm.
That's it's interesting to see where this can lead, and whether it's entry into film school or like really practical skills for a job that might even be unrelated to filmmaking. Just the ability to tell stories, to write. That's one thing where I love brick filming and what it does for people and what it's done for me is I'm kind of a obsessed with creative control,
Mhm.
and working like on an actual film set. It seems to me, I've never done it, but not really. It seems to be this other creature where it's like you are part of an extremely collaborative process and you kind of throw your hat in the ring and you do what you can to make it great. But ultimately, there are a lot of minds working on it, which sometimes can be a really good thing, sometimes can actually be detrimental in
Mm.
a weird way. But to be able to just have complete control and make this thing that is like, not to sound too like woo woo, but like a reflection of your soul and your vision and what's in your head. That is the part of brick filming that I am completely obsessed with.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have heard stories from brick filmers where they go to film school and start working on film sets like live action, and they are sort of taken aback by the fact that there's so many different heads, different minds working together, and like sometimes there's arguments and they get sorted out and all that. But like, yeah, it's a bit of a shock to people who have been used to having complete control over every individual frame.
Yeah,
yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
it takes a process. It takes a lot of unlearning and like basically feeling like you're starting from scratch, no matter what experience you've got, because basically you're like, oh wait, and now collaborating with people, I've got to kind of like really know what everyone's doing and what they're putting into the work. And like I think when you've got a good film set, you've got a film set of people who are just like they're all just in the synergy, like they're all just like in sync with each other and
Hmm.
like just doing valuing each other's work, and just doing the best they can. Um, but yeah, it can take a lot to learn how to do that, and I'm still
Yeah.
learning that.
Yeah, you need people who have the technical chops to like know what they're doing and like do good work. But there's something to be said about just chemistry too. Just chemistry between whether it's actors or the filmmakers. One thing that I've wanted to do for a long time now, but I never had the really the know-how or the equipment to do it, is for like scenes in brick films that involve like a dialogue, record the voice actors together in one room
Hmm.
and have them, actually engaging with each other in the room. And I think that would be really fascinating.
Yeah.
So far, the only way I've been able to do it is one person at a time, either, have them do their recording and we just communicate on Discord, or have people just in the room, recording into my mic and I'll just read for the other parts. But
Mhm.
uh, I do think, collaboration more often than not does improve things. And if you can tap into the natural chemistry that exists between human beings, you can sometimes produce beautiful things
Yeah.
with that.
I mean, I think I've said it before, but like, I like the idea of making a film at some point where the voice acting has been recorded over a call like this, where
Mm,
somebody can record the line and then I can give them direction and how I want it to sound. Or even if you had people talking back and forth in a call like this, recording their lines back and forth. I especially like the idea of doing like a really, really stupid comedy film where people will be trying not to laugh, delivering ridiculous lines, like being in a call with
mm.
each other. I feel like there could be some amusing chemistry to that.
It's like so good. Like I've been doing it a lot recently. Where for the next episode, I'm on episode 7. I've been doing loads of voice calls, and I I did a phone call. I don't want to say too much before it's released, but basically I'll just say there was an exchange between two characters, one played by Lucas and one played by Ben Sajira, and it was absolutely hilarious. I had to kind of go on mute, just because I was laughing so much. And yeah, there's bits crack out laughing, and I basically gave them a script, and I was like, I'm not sure. I just feel like it could have worked, but I felt like if I just got two really funny people together
Yeah.
and just like use their chemistry and just like basically ad lib the entire thing. Is ad lib the right thing?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Like they'll come up with something just so much funnier just off the cuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm. It was great. I do highly recommend doing that kind of thing. I think it's a really, it makes it feel more alive, you know.
And I just
Yeah.
love in general, like in any medium, something where you can feel that it's like it's about to go off the rails and it's just like holding on for dear life. I just find that really engaging and entertaining.
There's this. Do you guys watch or have you watched Saturday Night Live at all? You familiar with that?
Well, I'm
I've
familiar,
watched
but no.
I've seen sketches and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's I don't watch it that much, but they do have one skit. It's like a song, but it's all about how everybody loves the break. You know, when all the actors are in the scene
Hmm.
and they get to a point where it's so funny
Yeah.
that they're starting to break character. And how that's like the juiciest part of the skit is when they
Yeah,
start to
it's
break
true.
character because it's so dang funny. Um,
Yeah.
but kind of speaking about like collaboration, I was kind of curious. God, a few things. I guess and then there's just these things where I'm curious about how they came to be and the details a little bit. But the announcement for the manifest,
Hmm.
the latest manifest contest, where it was a few of you met together.
Yeah.
I know Chris was there and Ben and
Lucas.
just Sean and and what was the other guy's name?
Lucas Mass.
Lucas.
It's amazing what green screen can do and CGI.
No,
I would say.
Was
that was real.
the,
I mean, obviously,
I
the floating
no,
head
I
was CG, but
I had to watch it a few times because I was like, there's no way they did this separately. But you guys actually got
yeah,
together in Germany
in
and made that
Sweden.
video.
I
Sweden.
mean,
Okay.
we didn't fly out just to make a video. There is kind of a bit of backstory. So, like, Lucas, Chris, and Sanjira had known each other. They met through being on Bricks Emotion and were in a Skype group together with a bunch of other people, and it was pretty tight knit,
Mhm.
So they've just remained close ever since, and I guess I'm in that sort of circle now. I'm in the video, so I must be. But basically, the three of them met up in 2019 in America, and then after that there was plans like, oh yeah, we'll meet up again. I think the years are right. It's like we'll meet up again in 2020, and that's when I got added to the mix.
Mm.
But then of course the pandemic happened, so
Oh yeah.
so we were like, well, I guess we'll push it off until 2021, and that didn't happen either. So finally in 2022 we actually got to Sweden, and yeah, so we just had a plan to just meet up and hang out for a week. That took a couple of years to actually happen, but it just so happened that we knew we'd be announcing the Manifest 2 contest, so we just said, hey, we might as well make the most of actually being in person and make a video that it's more novel
A
to
film.
have a video like
It's
that.
a film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the motion picture.
I was surprised by how
Yeah.
it did seem like decently well made. Like I thought it was just going to be super goofy and like just purely riding on the novelty of having some of us together in person. But it actually, yeah, it came together quite nicely. I thought it was edited by Chris, and he did a really good job.
It shows just how much you learn from being a brick filmer. It just translates into live action.
Well, I mean, also Chris has actual like education in
Yeah.
video,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, I
but so
actually,
do the others. Yeah.
I wonder if I could actually ask about that. Getting into I guess, the kind of host thing again, asking questions myself. But
Go for it.
sure, I was gonna wonder if you had anything to say about like how you were kind of worried, you're trying to kind of avoid it feeling like it was like nostalgia critic.
Well, we brought up that example like constantly when we were filming. We're like no, that's too that's nostalgia critic, or that's channel awesome or whatever. Like if the delivery or if the scenario we came up with was just going too far into being like unironically corny and awful, we if somebody suggested something and somebody else shot it down as being like, no, that's kick-assia. That's what it was. That was the comparison we kept drawing. We're like, no, that's kick-assia stuff. And like that would just instantly everyone would understand that, there'd be no arguing against that. Like if somebody thinks it's kick-assia-esque, then it's over. It's Jover.
Oh my lord. That is funny. And then, I mean, to top things all off, you guys found a bar or a restaurant
Called BIM.
called BIM.
That was a
BIM.
total accident. It was really funny because we were writing the script before we met up in person. So we were just having voice calls and trying to come up with, an outline of what would happen. But we couldn't think of an ending at all. Like, we had a few ideas and we just thought they were all really bad. And I guess kick-assia reminiscent. But so eventually we just decided, we won't script an ending. We'll just go to Sweden and we'll look around and hopefully something in the environment will, inspire us. And yeah, at some point we were just walking through this gigantic shopping center and then we were like, oh my god, it's a restaurant called BIM! So, that was it. Instantly.
And also, like, not long after that, obviously, we all met up as well for the Steinway, and there was a hotel called the Penta Hotel, which was also...
Oh my lord.
Yeah, I got a picture with that, yeah.
Synchronicities all around. I'm curious, William, do you have any experiences like meeting other brick filmers in person? Or is that yet to come?
Literally just because just after this we went to the Steinway together.
Oh yes.
That's basically it. That's the only experience I've had of like meeting people. But it was quite funny because it was like we got a chance to obviously me and Sean met for the first time in person, and obviously we also met Jonah from Joko and Bertel, and then we met like so many people from the brick film community at Steinway, like Mirko and Yetgo, and like I guess like majority of like active members from on Brickboard, which was just an amazing experience. Yeah. So I've had that one experience, but it was a really good one.
But it was very funny because when we met in person for the first time, because we've been doing podcasts for years now and just talking on Discord, like I described it as like surprisingly underwhelming to meet in real life because it felt so natural. It's just like, hey, well, yeah, here we are. Our voices sound the same as they do on the internet, so
yeah, you look the same. Yeah. That is funny.
That is the funny thing though, actually, because Sean, I think you commented on this. We do have a podcast which we recorded part of in Germany. We're yet to kind of actually release. I'm working on it, but basically, you do comment on that, like how there's not been many instances where you've actually shown your face until that point.
And
then you were showing photos and stuff, and everyone's like, "Who is that guy?"
Not exactly by design. I just never felt inclined to use my face as a profile picture, and so then when we were making the video in Sweden, and it has this reveal of like, we take off our hoods and it's like Chris, Penta, Lucas, and I was thinking it is kind of funny that like, nobody nobody's familiar with what I look like, really. There was one or two other podcasts I did where I was on camera, but like, it's this reveal of like, yeah, I don't know who that is really. So that's why we had to have, we had to have Ben actually say everyone's name so you'd actually know who we
Yeah.
are.
I think
Yeah.
it does help as well, like, because like I think I think I had I'd seen you before on like in some things, recordings and stuff, but it was kind of convenient that like I had been in a lot of things
Oh yeah,
where I show my face, just so
Hmm.
that there was someone there in terms of like when we met, like you know who I
that's true.
am,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a few people who I communicate with on a regular basis who I met through brick filming, and several of them, like, is one of them, his name is Sonny. He lives in Australia, and I have an open invitation to come hang
Hmm.
out in Australia. But I've never seen him. I have no idea what he looks like, but it's like I would love to make that happen as soon as possible. It's kind of tricky though, because obviously that's Australia, and I need maybe a better reason to visit to make that
Yeah.
commitment. But then like have somebody in Germany who I'm eager to see, and I don't know. I hope like I would love if like if big brick filming festivals
Yeah.
uh kind of started to occur on a more regular basis. I know there's Steiner Eye.
Mhm.
Um, are there any others to speak of that are like?
There's sort of there's been other ones that are connected to a like AFOL uh, event. There was Cinebrick in Portugal as part of a general AFOL meeting festival, and then there was Brick Flicks. Was that in Chicago? Uh,
Hmm.
but again, those are sort of like one event as part of a Lego event. Lego in general. So we have also talked about like, oh, it would be so nice if we actually did a festival similar to Steiner Eye, but hosted in America, uh, and
Hmm.
get a bunch of the Bricks in Motion people and like yeah, people in America or close enough. But I guess the tricky thing about America is like it's so gigantic that I mean I guess California would be the obvious location because that seems to be where there's just more brick filmers.
Yeah, it's highest
But
concentration.
Steinrei being in
But I
Germany is really
think
good
yeah.
because like it's not too hard to just travel from anywhere in Germany to get to somewhere else.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of like, you know, when it comes to like America, it's like when people say like if you said, "Oh yeah, let's do it in California or whatever," it's kind of like there's for a decent amount of people, it's still going to be a bit like the equivalent of us going to
Mhm.
Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could make a trip to California without too much issue. Like me going to Germany, that's another story, or Australia, but I'd fly, but it's not going to break the bank necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we do plan to continue going to Steinrei as long as it all works out
hmm.
for whatever we're doing at the time. But like, uh, obviously for us, it's like super easy to just fly to Germany. It's not very expensive, especially for me because it's within the EU. Uh,
Hmm.
it's it's barely worth thinking about. It's yeah, I could totally do that whenever I want. But yeah, we like the idea of trying to actually get more people to come to Steinerei, like of
Hmm.
the English speaking community. I mean, we don't want to completely take over or overwhelm. What is at its core a German event, but it was
Yeah.
just really cool and like they were super welcoming to us and they kept asking us if we actually had a film to show and we were like no we don't
Oh,
so it's cool that they'd actually be interested in if we came along with a film we wouldn't be stepping on their toes so
yeah.
we like the idea of gathering
Yeah.
a multiple people who are willing to come to Steinerei and maybe make a
Yeah.
co-production
It's
between the lot of us that we can submit.
it was really nice, just like how much like it felt as though we were just being welcomed with open arms, like within when it came to Sinaway, and just like how we just fitted in. Like it didn't feel like
Mm.
we were kind of like fish out of water or whatever.
Hmm.
And it just yeah, I think good credit goes to I think Brickboard and
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like make us feel welcome.
and but
I think brick filming, I feel like brick filming is such a niche hobby that like a bunch of brick filmers coming together is way more of like birds of a
mm,
feather. It's the fact that you have brick filming in common is way closer than the fact that you're like of different nationalities or speak a different language.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a unique
Yeah,
thing.
it was really cool to have that many people in one room who are all talking the same language and, talking about specific shots in their films, and everyone else knew exactly what they meant. And yeah, so yeah, it felt we're probably saying a lot of stuff that you'll hear us say if we ever finally release our
Mm.
Steinreich podcast, but it just felt really special in a way that like I hadn't felt before actually going to a specific brick film event. And so yeah, it
Hmm.
did make us think, man, it's a shame that we don't do this more often. We do. It would be
Yeah.
so nice to have more real life brick film festivals.
Yeah, I really hope it
Yeah.
happens. I'll be there, and I hope I can make Steiner Eye one day. Do you know how many people would you say were in the crowd? I really have no idea
Well,
the
it
size
was
of
the
this thing.
first one back after COVID had made it an
Hmm.
online only thing for 2 years. So like, it was smaller than the ones before COVID, but I'm sure
Hmm.
it'll go up again next year,
Hmm.
and it'll probably start to climb upwards. So I'd find it very hard to estimate how many people were there, but it was a decent crowd, for sure.
Yeah. Was were the films in were a lot of the films in German or mostly English, or how was that?
Well, there was a lot of films with no spoken dialogue,
Oh yeah,
but there
I
there were,
suppose.
probably like half of them were dialogue based in German, but we still managed to follow them just by the visuals, and if the voices sounded funny, it sounds
Yeah.
funny. So
I
Yeah.
think,
we were very happy. Like
yeah, I
we felt
think,
like, wow, we surprisingly could pretty much follow everything, even if we didn't know the specific words they were saying.
Yeah.
of course, there is a difference between like having something that's on mute and I think that, at least all the kind of like sound design, all the stuff that's added to it. But I think there's that principle of like a good test of a film is if you can really follow it
Hmm.
without having the dialogue, and I think that was a good test for it. The fact that we could pretty much comprehend all of them um, was a testament to the quality of the films.
Yeah, and actually, I guess
Yeah.
something I wanted to say about Samurai, like that sort of loops back to the idea of just making the films because, you know, you like it and you like just getting the engagement from community involvement. I've always been fascinated by how the German community members, they seem to basically just make one big project every year, and that's for Steinerei. Steinerei is their central
Hmm.
event. Like the German community is, like, you could say, it kind of revolves around Steinerei, and like there's some people who they literally don't even bother to upload their film afterwards,
Hmm.
or it might be some
Interesting.
super obscure link and it's an unlisted video, but like it makes sense to me where it's like they feel like getting it in the theater on the big screen, and you have the crowd watch it, and then you can hear the crowd laughing while it's live, and then people talk about it afterwards. Like, they've gotten the satisfaction they wanted from the film, so they kind of,
Yeah.
in some cases, they kind of stop caring about it afterwards. But it served its purpose, and I find that very, I really like it. They're not
Yeah.
content brained.
I
Yeah.
think
It's a
that
yeah.
I think that there is something about I think as well like when we talk about views and an audience side of things is that like maybe this is just something that like I think a lot of when it comes to creating stuff independently is that like it's always going to be very much kind of like English language centric when it comes to like
Yeah,
stuff like that. So so at least in terms of like YouTube and like the things that we follow like in America and like UK or Ireland or whatever. You got to think as well like for like the for like German language brick films, there is that language barrier, which means that like they're not as gonna get as many like there's a big chance they're not gonna get as many
hmm,
views as like an English language brick
that's
film.
true. Yeah,
So I think that there is that kind of sense. You've got a community of people who um, pretty much just don't really care about the
yeah.
views
I
because there's
actually
not really
kind of never
something
really
that's like
thought about that before.
as attainable
Yeah,
as like
Yeah.
yeah.
They've adopted the paradigm shift of this is a community thing. This isn't They're not grabbing for views.
Mm,
So it's like why even try for the view grabbing?
yeah. Although, I mean, of course, there are some that just magically did exceedingly well in the algorithm. Like, a famous one in the German community is Eiskalt by Rainlight, which is from 2011, and it has like 38 million views on YouTube. Like it was just like
What?
magically chosen by the algorithm. You know, the algorithm just put it in the related videos of like every brick film, and you know,
Huh.
apparently, like I think they said that he paid for his college with the money he got from that one brick film. But
Yeah.
that was just complete chance. It was a Sinorite 2011 entry, and I'm you know obviously he wouldn't have expected it to like go anywhere, but it's just magically chosen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I felt that with one of my films is like the Lego Zombie Apocalypse, the full movie. When I took all the episodes and put them into one, it like tapped into a vein
Oh yeah,
where if you looked up Lego Zombies on YouTube, it would be one of the first things you'd see. And what that does to a video is unreal when it
oh
just
yeah.
like gets placed by the algorithm in that strategic way, where it just, yeah, it checks the boxes. That's what we'll show them. It's pretty nuts. And
There's something about
um,
the phrase full movie or like movie. You know, if it's a
yeah,
brick film but it's
all
a
caps.
movie, those do exceedingly well. Like you know the paired series.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
like he was making paired for like 8 years, and as far as they didn't really get views. Like they were
Yeah.
super underground. Like some of us, eventually we started to pay attention to them on like the very last ones he was making. We're like, whoa, this series is incredible. Like and nobody knows about it. But then as soon as he uploaded the paired full movie, it absolutely exploded. Like now everyone
Yeah.
knows paired full movie, but he was just toiling away for years and years uploading them with barely any views.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny with that video because I kind of felt like it was one of those ones I was like, I'm gonna get around to watching. So I had it on like my watch list for ages, thinking like, maybe I was thinking at one point, or maybe we should do like like a watch what's the word, like watch sort of like a movie screening thing on Discord kind of thing.
A watch
Because like, it
party.
doesn't watch party, yeah, because like not many people have seen it. And then I looked at the playlist again, like a couple months later, and I was like, oh wait, it's got like millions of views now. What?
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
something I guess to kind of my own personal experience with like the algorithm side of things and having like a video that gets loads of views. I had a video that was like originally a paid commission film called I think it was originally it was just like very specific, like the name of the place and like um, army training or something,
Mm.
and it got like 200 views. And then I just so happened, I think we were just on Discord at one point one day, and people just were just talking about if you have war movie or war brick film army, those kind of generic words, that they seem to get loads of views, like sort of like war brick films.
Yeah.
And it just sort of stuck to me, like I've got a brick film that I uploaded recently. It's only got a couple hundred views, and it's. I wonder if I just changed the name to something very generic, and changed the thumbnail to be very kind of like something that draw. Maybe that would do something. So I changed it to Army Training in Lego, and within a couple of weeks, it gained thousands of views, and
Hmm.
now it's on 38,000 views, and it's
Jeez.
regularly getting like 1,000 views a month.
Yeah.
So
It's Sean, Sean, you especially, you caught me in the act of that once with the Backrooms video.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
I initially went with Pipe Dreams, and truthfully I like that title more than any of the
Mm.
others. But then I felt like I was missing the Backrooms community. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
there's more fans of the Backrooms that would like it, so I tried to change the title for something might be more a little, for lack of a better word, clickbaity. And yeah, it was interesting, and it feels like just a little bit dirty or scummy to like try to go in for the views and see what you can do, but it's like you want your
Yeah.
film to get viewed, you want people, if you know there are people out there that will enjoy it, sometimes you got to fudge things a little bit to try to make it reach them.
But I always sort of take the mindset of like I'm going to make what I truly want to make, but once it's done, you might as well try to get it to as many people as possible. Like
Yeah.
you might as well, put in the sort of yeah, make it a little bit more clickbaity, put a nice clickbait thumbnail on it. But as long as the work itself is true to your vision, like I feel like
Hmm.
everything else we used in the community we used to have this mindset of like the YouTube title is supposed to be the actual title of your your
Hmm.
serious film. So like something like Grace from '06, well, uploaded to YouTube in '07. Like the YouTube title just said Grace. That was it. It didn't say Lego animation. None of that. We used to think like that's the legit way to do it. Like if you're a poser, you're selling out if you write Lego animation in your YouTube title. But nowadays, I think that put as much advertising in your title and thumbnail as possible, and just put a title card with the real title of the film. Like, that's where I'm
actually.
at. I mean, I've always considered the idea of like, there is, even if it's a small audience, there is going to be an audience of people if you put Lego in the title, and I've always tried to. I think there's like only a couple. Yeah, I think it was literally this past Brawl entry that I did for Time for Pie. I think that might be one of the only brick films that doesn't have, of mine, that doesn't have Lego in the title, and that was just by mistake. It still got, I mean, it got over 1,000 views, which is great. But yeah, just by chance, I forgot to put Lego. Yeah. But I think every other brick film I've made, I've put Lego in the title.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing.
You've got to get some views.
Back then, when YouTube was starting, like, we looked down on people having Lego in the YouTube title, like. If it was in front of the video title or if it was part of the video title, we always thought like, oh, it's less legit if you actually have Lego in the title. Tut, But
yeah, you're right.
We got over that. It's not very...
I kind of think though, like that's probably about a point of snobbery that I've always thought was kind of ridiculous, because it's just like,
because it is Lego.
Lego in the title. Yeah,
that's
like,
the draw. Yeah,
but it's not affiliated with Lego.
It's kind of a bit. It's a bit like if you did a Minecraft video and you decided to not put Minecraft in it. It's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah. My understanding of like what the Lego group is cool with legally and what they'll let slide or what they'll act on. I'm always kind of keeping that in my periphery and trying to stay up to date on that. And for a while, when I changed my channel name to Twisted Bricks. It used to just be my name, Christian Stensley, but I was like, I kind of want to double down on this and try to, make a website, make this a whole community if I can. And I started to change the name of some of those episodes to, instead of the Lego Zombie Apocalypse, the Twisted Bricks Zombie Apocalypse, because in my mind, I'm like, I don't know where I want to go with this. But wherever I go, if I try to make this profitable in some way, even if it turns out to be impossible, I want to do everything I can to avoid the legal onslaught of the Lego group or attracting negative attention to myself from them, where they'd be like, this guy is like making us look bad. So I still put Lego in, obviously, like the Lego backrooms and stuff, because it seems like that's kosher, that's good, it's cool. Lego group doesn't care as much, but I'm always like curious about where brick filming can go financially for people, because there are obviously limits.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and there have been legal consequences.
There were a few legal incidents at like early 2000s, but Lego seems to, they realized that was a losing battle. They're never going to be able to control videos online, especially once YouTube came along. They were finished. Like they're just cooked. But so Lego and YouTube video titles, Lego in channel names, like that's never going to be an issue as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, it is good if you want to make the Twisted Bricks Zombie Apocalypse the series name, because maybe if you sold merchandise with the word Lego, that could be an issue. But I mean, of course, it is possible to make a channel, and if you're extremely, I guess, a combination of luck and intelligence, you can get a decent enough income off of YouTube videos. But it's only a tiny sliver of people who ever achieve that. So I always think it shouldn't be somebody's goal. Like they should. As far as I'm concerned, the people who achieved that, they never started brick filming thinking I'm going to end up at a place where I make money out of this. Like sometimes you see people that come along and they make a YouTube channel, and not even only in brick filming. So it could be other genres of video, but they have like 2 videos and they're like, oh, it's not happening. It's not working out. I'm not making money. And you're just like, well. You're approaching it wrong if you just made 2 videos and you're like, why isn't it happening? But I would argue that it does have to be like
you can go into it with an entrepreneurial mindset,
Yeah,
so to speak,
it
but
has to be
any
balanced.
success you have will likely be the result, a byproduct of passion,
Yeah,
rather than,
absolutely.
going into, unless, some people like, again, you could copy the most popular brick films frame by frame and you might have some financial
Okay, yeah, I
success,
guess
but
the YouTube Kids stuff
how
is
do you
like the
sleep at night?
exception to what I was talking about. Yeah, the YouTube
Yeah,
Kids stuff is sort
I
of
think
geared
they're
towards
like
making money, but it's the perfect. It used to be the perfect avenue for making money. YouTube Kids kind of fell
I
off. Like
think
some
there
of the big
is.
creators like Titan Pictures and Michael Hickox kind of stopped because the money just wasn't coming in anymore.
oh, interesting.
I do think though. There's yeah. I think it's worth kind of thinking about like the terms of like in general as a general kind of rule. A lot of the really big successful YouTubers are like or people in general. If they're successful people, it's like they'll start making content and it's like it's not coming into it with the mindset of like I'm going to be the next big thing. I think of an example. I think of like Penguin Zero, like Moist Critical. Like he started off as a kid posting stuff and like not really getting that many views, just doing like let's plays and stuff, and now he's well Moist Critical. So
Hmm, interesting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
but
there's
I
a
actually I wanted to say sort of related to you mentioned Wandering Skies, like that's when Monotoga Studios tried to release Bound on a DVD in actual shops. That's when they ran into issue with Lego. So
yeah.
yeah, if as far as being able to make money out of brick film, that seems to be a no. And I'm very
Yeah,
curious. Like with Wandering Skies, they said that they have the okay from Lego, and I'm very I'd like to know more about that because that's very interesting to me. Because
I know.
based on all the history that I know, it sounds like the type of thing that Lego would say no to instantly.
I know. I'm super curious, and I really wish Greg all the best on that venture, because it could be it's a new thing. It's a new horizon. Lego, like, and obviously people have been making shows like Lego
Mm.
shows for a long time, but this is definitely on a scale I don't think we've seen necessarily. I did want to talking about like videos gaining views, whether it's by like the algorithm or surprising. I did want to talk about the Benny and Lee Halloween special.
Yeah,
Um, I when I looked at both of your channels, I of course like sorted your videos by view
yeah,
count. And Sean, I'm not sure if that's the
yeah.
most.
It's
It
like
might be the
most
most
viewed. Yeah.
viewed. It's got 571,000 views to date. And literally the top comment is Sean. It's your own comment asking, why does this have so many views?
I know now. The answer is because Halloween. It spikes every
Yeah,
year. So
I think,
if you want
yeah.
to make evergreen brick
People,
films, yeah, you should make Halloween specials, Christmas specials, holiday, something that'll be relevant every single year. And obviously I didn't realize that at the time I made it. I was just making random videos. But yeah.
maybe maybe by the time next Halloween 2023 rolls around, I'll just retitle the Backrooms video, the Backrooms Halloween special, see what happens.
But
But
that was uploaded in a real golden era for brick films being able to get views back in
oh yeah.
'07, '08, '09. Short videos were accepted on YouTube. Nowadays
Hmm.
they want all videos to be like 10 minutes plus, but back then
Hmm.
it wasn't going by watch time; it was going by views, and so brick films had just
Yeah.
an equal chance of popping off in the algorithm and related videos section.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how it seems like the issues that brick filmers face, or like the obstacles they face, it's in some ways they've simply shifted. Because in the early days, there were so many technical obstacles to making a quality brick film, whether it was like, starting and stopping on a camcorder, or trying to get, I mean, if you're using like uh, VHS, I guess, I don't like recording the audio on one tape or one file. And there's all these like obstacles to overcome. And now we have all the filmmaking equipment you could ever dream of. But getting your film seen is like, it seems to be kind of if you want to call it an obstacle, but the challenge that people face is and have to be creative in solving. And sometimes solving that feels like selling out, or even trying to solve it feels like selling
Yeah.
out. But I think there is, everybody's got, as long as you follow your moral compass as much as you can, uh, there's plenty of legitimate ways to do that, or to
I
try
could
it.
feel myself reverting to the old snobby ways when everyone was making I made this in 10 minutes or I made this in
Oh yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and I was like, oh well, that's egregious trend hopping to
I know. I am ashamed to admit that I spit one of those
I
out
don't
there
I don't
too,
blame
or I took
anyone
my
for doing
entire
it. Like
stream.
I completely
Yeah.
understand. Like it's a good idea to do. But actually that is a kind of it.
I
I guess YouTube has been moving more towards short videos now. YouTube Shorts and pe-
Yeah.
people seem to have massive channels and they only ever upload like 20-second animation
the
tests. Really.
the exact the exact opposite of what they were saying before. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, that is funny. It's like you go hour long, yeah, like 10 hour long content or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the good points.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm curious, do either of you think there are any, and you might have to tap into your inner snob to properly answer this question, but do either of you think there are any trends right now in brick filming that just need to die? Or that are just every time you come across it, you like, you sigh?
Yeah. Of
Well, no,
Anything?
course.
I'm just gonna get my pipe
Mm,
and my classical music a
there,
second.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. Get
there's
situated.
no
No,
question about that. I mean, I'd hesitate to, go into detail.
Yeah. There's this
um,
channel called, just kidding.
yeah, I don't like to. I kind of feel like if I start talking about the trends that I want to see, kind of like um sort of die or whatever, or like I'm kind of annoyed by, I feel like I'd be talking about trends and then think to myself, oh wait, this was like
Mm,
2019.
yeah.
I don't really
Hmm.
follow. I'm not really keeping an eye on like a lot of stuff
Well,
anymore.
there's
So I'm just like I follow the things I like. I'm just like, do I even know like
there's some
what's
things
Yeah.
that are kind of
Fair.
what's hot?
eternal and also not even isolated to brick filming. And one of those is like crass humor that's not clever, where like if it's just I took a kid friendly character and added a bunch of sex and a bunch of violence and a bunch of drugs, and there's no additional cleverness to the point. I don't.
Hmm.
I just that instantly I'm like no, but that doesn't
Mm.
just go for brick films. That's TV shows and anything really. But
Yeah, it's the adult
yeah,
humor
yeah,
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
adult humor, yeah. But
Yeah.
but obviously there are some things that use those, but they just have something more clever going on. Uh, but anyway, I guess the one that nowadays probably what I sigh the most at is when people have like a character but make no effort for it to be in character. Like let's say if somebody uses a Bugs Bunny collector figure, but it's not
Mm.
acting like Bugs Bunny and it's not moving like Bugs Bunny, like they're not being informed by the source material. They're just putting the figure there just because it's a character people recognize. So
Yeah.
I guess I feel like if people are basing a brick film on something, there's more than just the surface level visual to like
Yeah.
invoking a character or an intellectual property.
I thought this is loosely connected to that, but one thing that was so impressive to me about Taco Trouble 2, there's one shot in particular where Dr. X is leaving the stand, I think. Let's see, I had this. Oh, so yeah, Dr. X, he's walking away from the stand after being a witness, and Biff is walking, he
Hmm.
crosses him, and Biff has this distinct kind of
Yeah,
choppy walking style, while Dr. X, he has his own walking style. And just like that is something that I'm not very good at
yeah.
is animating characters differently, giving them actual physical behaviors. I think that's some of the most it's in the top higher tiers of technique when it comes to brick filming. That is the last thing that people
Yeah,
actually
that's true.
do.
People really need to be around for a long time before they start to like notice that and like yeah, before it clicks essentially. Yeah, to actually
Yeah,
to give
yeah,
I
individual
kind of feel like
characters individual character. But what I was most happy about with that shot is the fact that they cross over in the shot on different frame rates.
yeah. And Dr.
mm,
X is walking
Oh yeah.
diagonally on
Oh
a
god.
plate, which it like made it
Yeah.
hurt inside for me to imagine animating
That one
that.
was brutal. Oh my god, that was like one of the hardest shots, but because of his diagonal walk, and then there was so much tack to mask out as well.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, but I guess I should explain that like the way it works with the frame rates is because if you animate at 24 FPS and Doctor X moves every second frame and Biff moves every third frame, so that's why he's
Hmm.
choppier, and also he's just animated choppier. Like his
Mm.
legs just go up Like they go up really
Yeah.
far, whereas somebody else walking is just
Yeah.
going to be walking, but he's intentionally doing the like old school choppy
Yeah.
walk. But it's the
Yeah.
frame rate that yeah that's the secret behind like different characters moving differently. Is if you use 24, then you can shoot characters on ones or on twos or on threes or even on fours if you're like really insane.
Yeah.
I like that, like, they just kind of sort of struck me about like the way you talk about the walk cycle. I feel like it's like the first thing that brick filmers learn to do, and the last thing they learn to do creatively.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
interestingly.
yeah. That's a good way of
Yeah.
putting it. Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
if you're not talking about like trends, I want to see die. I think something just struck to me. I don't know if it might be quite a niche thing. I'm not sure if it's really like as much as a trend, but I hear quite a lot of people sometimes talking about, just like talking about just like the randomest, like the most random frame rates. Like, oh, I'm gonna shoot in 19 frames per second, and it's like
Why?
there's some stuff, and I do like the idea of like I think like obviously Sean has really sort of showcased it, you know, going down to like beneath 12 frames per second, because there was a point in time where like it was like even 12 frames per second was
Yeah,
frowned
yeah.
upon.
12,
It was like
even
you have to
12
be
was looked
15.
down on before we really started to push like actually animating with much theory behind it. Yeah, everyone just used
And I
15,
think
and 15 just anything looks good enough in 15.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of weird how like yeah, a lot of like I guess a lot of just break filming was just kind of this sort of calculated thing. You walk like this, you
Yeah.
do this, but yeah. So the idea of like you know going down to 8 frames per second, even below that, and it being creative and interesting, like that's really cool. But I think some people would take the wrong lessons from that and just think like unusual frame rates equals good
Instantly
when
interesting for
like
some
no one
unknown reason.
and it's really bizarre to me. Like people think like 20 frames per second, like oh this will be cool. Like literally no one is going to notice or care. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
something I think it's really important for anyone who's sort of thinking about that. It's like why are you doing it? That's the
Yeah.
main thing to like ask. Like what do you think
Yeah,
you're
it's
going
like,
to get
oh,
out
I'm using
of
13
this
FPS, and it's like,
walk
why
cycle?
in God's name would you use an uneven number that's right next to 12? Like, standards
Yeah.
exist. Standards were developed for a reason. They weren't just arbitrarily
It's
chosen.
like you're going to hate yourself the moment that you start
Yeah.
editing.
It's interesting because for me, even like more recently than I'd care to admit, I was not very educated in like frame rates and what's like the industry standard. What are you typical frame rates in videos? What is, what, and even in animation. I made a video in probably 2018 that was, I animated at
Hmm.
18 frames per second because I was like, oh, just like, let's see what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Loads of
but
people do that, when they're still learning.
yeah, and I had no idea. But now, like, I animate 15 frames per second exclusively, and I've done. I can't even say how much time I've spent animating at that frame
Hmm.
rate. And I think there's a lot to be said about like be consistent with the frame rate you animate at, because if you're jumping around trying to do 15 and then 12 and then you'll learn pretty well rounded, but animating so much at one frame rate, I feel when I turn my computer on and I start the stop motion process, the I have such at this point, not it sounds like I'm
Hmm.
bragging, but such an internal
Oh yeah, yeah,
understanding of what movements will look
yeah.
like depending on like how, and it's like you start to understand on it, like almost get a sixth
I
sense
agree.
for how things will turn
Yeah, I mean,
out,
it doesn't sound like bragging at all, because I think every single big filler would relate to that. Yeah, like once you've just done it for long enough, you just have this instinctive understanding of how it's going to look if you move it, this far compared to this far
Hmm.
in the frame rate that you work best at. Uh,
Yeah.
but oh yeah, I was going to say that for the longest time I used 16 based on
Yeah.
limitations of Windows Movie Maker, but then because I had learned in 16, I just held on to it for way too long, way longer than I should have. And even nowadays, people who've been around for a long time, who because everyone used to use 15 in the brickfilms.com era and early Bricks in Motion. Nowadays, I think 12 is becoming more and more popular, and I'm always pushing for like everyone should use 12 as their baseline. It's so much better than 15, and because you actually have to learn a little bit of theory to make it look good enough, I think. But people like me and like Nathan Wells, people have been around. Like we all say, like we wish we started at 12. Like learning at 15, it was sort of like a crutch where it makes it easy to just start, but like, man, we were holding ourselves back by not using the like 24 on 2s method. Like it's just we just wish that the community had used 12 as its standard frame rate from the beginning instead of 15. I think they chose 15 because
Yeah.
I think early internet video was like 30 FPS as standard, so 15
Mm.
just divided into that more neatly. But you know, nowadays YouTube can support different frame rates, and obviously 24 is a film industry standard, so we like 24 and 24 on 2s.
I know that there have been some people. I think Thomas Forlorn. He's animated in 12.
Oh yeah, it's
and a half,
Australian
just
standard.
to fit the PAL. And technically, I think both me and Sean are PAL as well, but we still do the 24.
It
It
might
doesn't really
be
matter in the
exclusive
internet
to
age,
Australia. I'm not sure. I don't know what the standard frame rate for television here is. I mean, I think
because the standard I think in the UK is 25 FPS. So
but see, he had to do that on PAL TV standard because something to do with the fact that it was made for a college project. Like there was some, like I think
yeah.
he wasn't in control of what the frame rate should be. You know, like it was mandated that it's going to be in PAL TV standard, Australian TV standard. But yeah, so
whenever you do anything for like college or university, there's still very much sort of set by the basic. But basically, they're going by the old standards. So even if they don't really actually mean anything anymore, you're still having to go. Yeah, it has to be 25 frames per second. It has to be, yeah.
Well, I hate to I feel like I'm saying what I've heard you guys say so many times, but for my own time purposes, I'm gonna have to move us on to the brick film review. Um, so I thought maybe we could start with Ben. That was the first of both of yours that I watched, and it was it was really interesting. It was an interesting viewing experience, and it kind of made me reflect on how people's animation skills don't necessarily grow in like some kind of cookie cutter way. Some people are they're good at some different people are good at different
yeah.
things early on than they are at other things. And this video had really impressive production design, and like even the animation quality was quite good, but like some of the lighting and certain elements of that lacked a little bit to be. It's like it's funny how it evolved. He was very good at some
Yeah,
parts of
well,
it. Does that make
that was
sense?
basically the entire community at this point in time. So this film's from late
Mm,
2007. And yeah, you know, there was a lot of,
jeez.
in the brickfilms.com community, there was a lot of people who were actually good at, like, filmmaking, like, cinematography, and stuff like that. They put more thought and effort into that than what people would do for many years afterwards. Until, you know, we've essentially caught back up again after a while. But the animation really wasn't the main focus. People really weren't animating with like principles in mind, like at this
Yeah.
point in time. But yeah, like this. So this film, it does have standout cinematography and sets, and especially editing as well. And
Hmm.
see, the reason I chose this is because you make like gory brick films. I thought it would be a fitting pick. I was just thinking to myself, what's
Hmm.
some gory brick film that made an impact that I remember?
Yeah.
So you know, this is posted on brick films in at the very end of '07. So that's when I was like, I'd been around for like, I don't know, a few months by then, and uh, so this was like the first brick film I ever saw where the blood and the gore was like actually gnarly looking, you know, like
Yeah, the head cut
yeah.
open was pretty wild.
There was a bunch of stuff on YouTube, like you know, with titles like "Bloody Lego Fight Scene," and then they were just like high angle. They weren't like well made like this, and you know, the blood would be ketchup or clay or like marker drawn on the bricks. But this one, you know, I'm not gonna say it's the first brick film that had more like visceral gore, like maybe the Lego Clan did before this, but this is the one that I saw first, and I was like, whoa, you know, this is crazy. uh,
Yeah.
so it's essentially, it's always in my mind, it has always been a classic, but I don't think
Yeah.
all that many other people from the time really ever talked about it much. But and of course, nowadays I watch it and I think like, the exposition with a still frame of his file goes on for far too long, and things like that. Like, or when that one guy falls over dead, it's kind of corny. Or
Right.
ever since 2007 or early 2008, whenever I would have watched this, I've always had that line stuck in my head when he says "sick bastard." The delivery just sounds so funny.
It's very, very kind of like of that time period. It was very brick
Yeah.
filming.
But yeah, I mean, I just remember,
It's
I remember
funny.
thinking it was just so crazy when the guy has his head cut open and the arm is cut off, and like the guns actually have a hole in the front. Like
Yeah,
that is,
I was gonna
such
bring that
a
up. It looked great
yeah.
too, having that like that muzzle hole. I guess just muzzle. But I was that's interesting to hear, Sean. I was curious, like watching both your picks. I'm like, I wanted to know like what made you pick those
Mhm.
initially, and just saying it left an impression on you, I think is really interesting because I think back to my one of the first films that I can remember seeing as a kid that I was like, wow. And God knows if anybody can find it, it's
Mhm.
you. But it was one of those like Lego bloody fight scenes where the scenes that I can remember are like this dude's like he's running down hallways and he's shooting people. And there's one scene where a guy gets shot up with a machine gun and it completely
Yeah, the
covers the
wall.
wall
Yeah,
behind him with red
I
clay.
probably know the one you're talking about. I'll go and dig
Okay,
it up after
well,
this podcast.
please. I've looked
Yeah,
for it. I can't find it. But there's also a scene then it's yeah, again, very Matrix inspired where he's in the middle of
yeah,
this
an
big room
airport,
that
right?
has like it may be. I can't remember details like that. All I remember he's in a room, there's like a ledge around him, and he just has all these people coming at him and fighting him, I think. And he like somebody gets a spear impaled by a spear, and it just blew my young
Yeah.
mind. And I think that's something that I still to this day, when I really think about it, I try to emulate that kind of feeling in a lot of my brick films.
I've got two
And
different
I don't
things in
know.
mind that I must show you. One of them actually, just so happens I was looking for it myself recently, and I was having a hard time finding it, which is very unusual for me. But I'll look again. But it could be bloody Lego fight scene, greatest Lego fight scene ever,
That
or
could
else it
be
could be
it.
the other one I'm
I
thinking
mean, it
of.
does ring a bell. Yeah. I forgot that like it's funny that they advertise the fact that it's
Mhm.
bloody, but obviously that's the thing to do.
Oh,
Um
something else I remember
but
about when I saw this film is like, because this was '07, it was still novel to see that the set was entirely made of tan and grey bricks.
mm,
It just
I
the
suppose
color palette of the whole video was pretty novel to me. In watching
yeah,
Lego
there's no
videos.
yellow, blue or
Yeah,
red.
I mean, well, they're in there, but it's like it's mostly much more grounded, muted colors, and
Yeah.
that's a style that I like to. In more recent times, I've liked to aim for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very cool to see and 2007, those are the early years that's at the very beginning of when I started watching these.
Yeah,
So that takes me back.
yeah. So
William, how about
I
oh,
was
go
just gonna
ahead,
say
Sean.
I like to just bring attention to this one because I just feel like nobody knows it anymore. Maybe me and Nathan Wells and like one or two other people who would remember from the time, but like it's been offline for a long time as far as like on the actual
Mm.
creators channel. I just think it's pretty cool.
Mm.
But obviously your
I
mileage
like.
may vary if you've seen way more intense, gory Brick films in the years since and way more better made. But this is the one that I thought was cool when I was super super young.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did like that. Like, I guess the concept of it being like he's kind of waking up and he's kind of remembering the thing or the file. It's like it kind of reminds a bit like of Memento, where it's like he doesn't remember, but
Yeah.
he kind of like knows what he has to do because he's got it written down. Um, and then it kind of it kind of feels like it kind of goes full circle kind of thing. Um, yeah, I really like this. Again, the editing, I think the choice of it kind of being like kind of like at first I wasn't sure if it was the compression
Mhm.
or if it was actually visual style. I think it was a creative choice where it's kind of all kind of like it almost feels like interlaced where it's all kind of like blurry and kind of like the image is kind of merging into
I mean,
itself and
yeah,
Hmm.
that was really cool.
it's intentional, but also it's compressed. Like
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
videos from this point in
Combination of
time are
both.
going to be pretty compressed.
I also, it was interesting to me that the video, it does not just like, it's not very self-explanatory. Like there is a heavy element of mystery
Hmm.
in it. And like saying what was it? He has to, something about he has to come to the surface to, what does he have to do? Find like, the star or
Yeah.
something like that. And it was just interesting how it seemed like a pretty mature
Mhm.
filmmaking style where there's all these implications, but nothing is just told to you outright. And obviously we've seen cajillions of like Lego fight scenes or like violent Lego
Yeah.
shorts since this one came out. But 2007, I can't imagine there was nearly, that wealth of influence yet. So it was just the originality of the films kind of speaks for itself there when you take the year into
Yeah. I
context.
mean, and yeah, it's just the fact that the cinematography and the editing are good. I mean, they're other stuff that was coming out of the brickfilms.com community in '07 was super, yeah, well shot and well, you know, there's really a massive disconnect. Like the brickfilms.com community stuff was on such a high level in '07 compared to everything else that was
Hmm.
going on, that was starting to go on YouTube. Like the disconnect is gigantic at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, William, how about can you tell us a little bit about your submission, Cry, and why you picked that?
Yeah, so this one always struck out to me. I mean, as a big sort of Joshua
Hmm.
Nelson fan, and obviously we've had him on the podcast as well. Um, I just I think pretty much any of his like breakfast. I think he's really great at horror, um, just in general, and just having such a unique style. I feel like when I was trying to find my pick, like despite his films being obviously more recent, this one just being from 2019, it's it just kind of fits in with these picks because he does have just such a unique style, which it kind of doesn't feel like of its time, and I mean that in the
Hmm.
best way.
Hmm.
And yeah, just such a very incredibly inventive and sort of fresh concepts, and generally really scary as well. I really like the build up and the kind of the tension that as this the film sort of goes, and it kind of it gets sort of more intense as it continues. You get that flash. You establish early on in the film is like a there's the kind of the lightning. Then you
Hmm.
continues. You see flashes of this like monster, and it just gets more and more intense. And I just think the lighting and cinematography, um, it's just so strong and unique to Joshua Nelson.
Yeah. Josh Nelson is an interesting cat.
Hmm.
I'm very curious to see where he goes because I had no idea. Like I checked his channel out, and some brick filmer names I'm more familiar with than others. But it was when I saw that he had also done
Hmm.
Jugu, I was like, okay, that makes sense. As well as the Insomnia. Like he's got some really interesting videos
Yeah.
and obviously a very
Distinct.
distinct style. And I'm so curious because like he's a very talented brick filmer. But I think it's one of those things where it's like when his like technical expertise, like as his technical expertise increases, I'll be very curious to see what kind of brick films he makes because
That
the story element of his brick films right now is so
that is something that I
captivating.
wanted to say is that I say this pretty often, but I feel like younger people would see something like this and they sort of think, oh, the animation could be better. It could be
Mhm.
smoother. But it took me a long time to realize as well that really direction is. I mean, this sounds stupid. Like, obviously, direction is important to films, but like, this film actually has direction, and it's very hard to sort of
Hmm.
point to what direction is and like quantify it and explain to people how one brick film is more well directed than another, even if it doesn't have as good animation. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's something that yeah, after a long time, I eventually started to be clued into.
Yeah, there was a
You
couple
see
of
it,
things.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, William.
You kind of just you just know it. You
Well,
know it when you
yeah,
know
that's the
it.
thing. Is like,
You know when you see it, don't
before
you? That's the
you
thing.
before you can explain it, you still feel it. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say that about Cry. There was a couple of moments where I just was like in my head, I was like, that works. That really worked. And the one was when the lightning flashed and you see the creature in the background. There's no sound, nothing scary. It's just this casual. You see it there, and then the nun moves on with her day, having not noticed it. You've seen it; she has not. And it reminded me a lot of a scene from. Have you guys seen Hereditary?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, William. There's a scene where she's in the background and it's just silent, and it gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
Like when she's crawling.
Yes, yeah. Oh God. Now I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. But that was good. And then the part where she is holding back the door and the key is just about within reach, but she can't get it without leaving the door and thus letting in the creature. And I was like, it's so simple, but it's so effective. Everybody can look at that and be like, that would be a nightmare scenario, and how is she going to get out of it?
There's such a simple concept, but it's just so effective, and it's just like, it's not just something. It's just not something, you're not thinking of like it's going to build up to that point. It's just like it's just like, it seems so kind of original, and it doesn't feel like it's just been inspired by some other brick film. It feels like
fresh.
I mean,
certainly just from this stuff, it really does have its own vibe and style, and it does remind me a lot like of things that we've been talking about now. Like, it reminds me of the old ways of doing things where like he's just making the films that he wants to make, and he does them really well, and like he's obviously not trying to maximize views. Like his output really feels pure, like the stuff from before YouTube.
Yeah, when I was watching Insomnia, it felt like I was like looking into somebody's dream. It was just this bizarre experience where it's like, I've never seen anything quite like this. It's just such a vibe. That's really the best way to put it.
Because
I'm talking about like,
I was gonna say like there are plenty of people who like they make really good brick films, and they're not necessarily like 100% like YouTube-y geared towards views, but you can still tell it's influenced them. Like there's still sort of like there's a bit of an element of like chasing, I mean, maybe not chasing, but like knowing what people,
imitating what you've seen.
Just knowing what gets a bit more views or more popularity on YouTube, you can still tell it's influenced the film to make. But Joshua Nelson stuff, it genuinely feels like that's just not in his mind, like consciously or unconsciously. Like his stuff is just the films that he's making.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference between content and storytelling, or content creation and like filmmaking.
Yeah. I think that there is something about like because talking about like I guess his technical skills or whatever, like growing and that kind of stuff. It reminds me of like when I first started to pay attention to Joshua Nelson. It was Summer Contest 2018, Mr. Classified, and it was like the 30-minute brick film. And I remember like people commenting, "Oh, it's 30 minutes. Like I'm gonna have to put it on like times 2 speed or whatever." And I watched it. And
who's got 30 minutes?
And I watched it, and I was like, actually, there is a lot to this that feels like it's fresh. It feels like there's like actual stories. There's these characters. There's stuff going on. There's things that are kind of developing, and like ever since then, I've just always been keen to see what Joshua Nelson continues to make. Even when like not many people were like watching him at that point, I was pretty much a fan from that point. I think
really, we are quite bad for like dreading longer brick films in contest playlists, and not even like super long. Like if you have a TAC playlist that's 120 brick films and one of them is 5 minutes, you're like, oh, it's 5 whole minutes. Like this better be good.
Yeah, there goes my afternoon.
But like, so when we were watching, I remember that when we were watching the Manifest entries, and Joshua Nelson did Plastic Puppet Theatre, and they're like 21 minutes long. And so we were like, just like, oh God, what's this going to be? Like this, are we going to be sitting here like in agony, like, why is it 21 minutes? But then like it started and we were just drawn into it, and we were like, hey, it's working. We're not concerned that it's 20 minutes long. Like we're just enjoying watching it. And of course it plays first in the contest because it's just that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. the ultimate, isn't it? Like going from like oh no to being like this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, can't look away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say a little bit about the film I picked. I picked The Parasite, of course, which again I only became aware of by watching the stuff you guys make. The videos going back in time, and uh, uh, if you has this been on your Brick Film Showcase before? Has somebody picked this for your
No,
podcast?
I this was actually the first time I've seen it. Actually, I think.
Really?
Oh, did you not
Okay.
watch my 90s
Well, it
video?
was
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I probably would have seen like
probably
bits of
caught a
it
glimpse
from
of it.
that, but yeah.
Wild. It's so interesting because it's so in some ways it's very similar to what I do. My series has this like fungal like clay creature organism that spreads in kind of a plague like way. And uh there's an element of that in this where it's this parasite, this organism that grows and evolves. And it's for its
Oh yeah.
time especially really impressive camera movements, large scale sets, a wild soundtrack, and I think
Oh yeah, sounded amazing.
yeah, and kind of gave me like again Evangelion vibes with like the mechs, the robots, and when they're like suiting up their guns
Yeah.
and stuff and getting all that. Um, and I was impressed with the what they used as a laser effect. It looks like it's a translucent plastic straw.
Yeah.
Um, but it was
A
just
90s classic.
yeah, it's certified. It was just an impressive sci-fi brick
Yeah, and
film,
this
I
one it
thought.
does seem to me to be timeless in that you could release it today and people would still be impressed by it. Like the set design just holds
Yeah,
up. It doesn't matter what era. Like that's just really, really impressive, and it's more impressive than what people usually do today. Um,
I
yeah,
was just so like amazed by just how much like he makes Lego bricks feel like this kind of squidgy thing that morphs. Like the way that it kind of just seems to keep changing and and evolving and like adapting to each situation. Like that bit is just so amazing where it's like it's sucking those people away and it becomes his mouth.
yeah,
um just like yeah, there's so much creativity in that, and I just think like the actual seeing this like blue kind of like thing just sort of like expand and move around and like follow these people, it's genuinely really effective.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even conceptually, like I watched it through a few times, and I am not going to claim to totally understand what the story is or what happened, but it's wild. This parasite that created, these humans created, it like it starts to consume them, and then it like forms this kind of chrysalis or cocoon of some kind, and then it emerges from the cocoon as some kind of robot, and it starts kind of doing in a perverse way what their own factory machines were doing. So it seems like maybe the humans were trying to design something that would help them, and then it kind of attempts that task, but it doesn't take
mm,
human life into consideration, and they have to take it down. I think maybe that's what happened. There's
that's
something
quite
like that
interesting.
happened,
Well,
but
I'm
it was
gonna
obviously a lot of
you
I'm
thought
gonna
was
have to
put
watch
into
it
it.
again with
you see
hot
those
thoughts
like
in mind.
I had this idea in mind, like you see these kind of like humanoid things being like robots being made in this conveyor belt, and I feel like this may have been the first brick film to do the people on a
Oh,
conveyor
yeah, it's a
belts
classic.
thing. But
Oh yeah,
basically, the idea I feel like is it kind of feels like it's this thing of like getting back for playing God in a way. Like they're making these people
mm-hmm.
and this machine. What I kind of feel like it's almost like this AI thing, which is like it's creating consciousness or something to these robots, and it sort of becomes like self-aware. It starts wanting to take over, and then you're seeing that bit at the near the end where one of the operators, one of the people there, becomes a robot because it's just like this robot head
Yeah.
just like falls onto them, and then it's like they're kind of like getting back at like you know
It's so interesting because in some ways, I'm like, is this thing as deeply layered as we could interpret it to be, or was it accidentally really profound? And sometimes it's hard to tell.
I mean, the
You
impression
know,
that I have is that he's definitely approaching this from it's like a done for a college project or something. I'm sure he was studying film and was thinking about like
hmm
actually having meaning in a film, uh, and like just
hmm
how
I think
distinctive, like it does have a yeah, good production design, much more distinctive and like well thought out than than most other brick films.
I kind of feel like if you're coming into it, I mean, you might want to pipe in, Sean, to see what you think of this. But like, I feel like if you're like people making brick films back then, obviously there's much less people making them. If you're going out of your way to make a film at all back then, it feels like you're gonna put in mind these sort of things. You know?
I mean, so obviously he's approaching it with intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, you mentioned the blue, like making it look like liquid. That, come to think of it, that's probably why. This film, it's clearly influenced by the Magic Portal. Like the set design looks similar to the Magic Portal. And when I was making my history video on the 1990s brick films, I wanted to mention the influence of the Magic Portal on a handful of other Australian 90s brick films, because Magic Portal wasn't online in the 90s, but other people in Australia, they had a chance to see it because it was on TV or it was on at underground film festivals. And so like there's one from 99 called Star Lego, where the creators on their website they said this is we saw the Magic Portal and then we made Star Lego, so it was super direct. But I remember I was watching the Parasite and I was basically like, the way it moves around, it's exactly like the blue slopes in the Magic Portal. Like it turns into a 3x4 slope, and then it like scoots along the ground and becomes a 1x4 brick. And just the set design looks incredibly reminiscent to the Magic Portal. So I was like, man, I need to include that as a brick film that's influenced by the Magic Portal. But I can't say it if I don't know for sure. Like I can't just assume it. I can't just assume it based on, it kind of looks like the Magic Portal and it's Australian, so it must be influenced by it. So, I hunted him down on Facebook and I was like, hey, did you see the Magic Portal before making this? And he was like, yeah, I did.
Case closed. It is remarkable to think about. My family is really obsessed with ancestry and just like kind of tracing back our family tree, and it makes you think about DNA and genetics and how certain traits are passed down and continue, and like they take unique forms, and the DNA of ideas. It's fascinating to look at like brick filming, because there is this chain of inspiration that goes way back. And certain elements kind of stayed and certain elements kind of die out. But like it's permanent, people get directly inspired by films and incorporate that DNA into their own films. And then other people get inspired by those films. And it's a really remarkable thing to just ponder.
Like I mentioned Star Lego, which Star Lego also has sets that look exactly like the Magic Portal. Like they have those big long Technique bricks with all the holes in them. Like basically nobody ever uses those in their set design, but the Magic Portal did. So stuff that's super inspired by that has those holes in the walls. But like that was online in 99, so that was actually, there would have been people around at that time who that would have been the first brick film they saw, and then they start brick filming. So that's like right around like the formation of the community online. But it is kind of funny because people sometimes assume like, the Magic Portal is from 1989 and it's so well known as far as it being an early brick film. Like, that must have influenced brick filming in general, right? And the answer is no, because it was only posted online in 2003, and brickfilms.com started in 2000. So stuff was already happening, and those people had never seen the Magic Portal. But I thought it was super interesting that it did like explicitly influence a very small number of other Australian brick films in the 90s because they saw it in real life or on TV.
Yeah.
And of course you could say, like the Magic Portal influenced Star Lego, and Star Lego was online in 99, and that influenced other people. So even if they didn't know about the Magic Portal, the DNA was still just about clinging on for dear life in there.
Yeah. Indirect influence. Well, boys, I think I need to wrap this up. It's my wife and I are heading back to our hometown, so gonna have to hit the road here soon. What time is it for you guys? It's got to be 10 midnight.
Not too bad.
It's not.
We've got a long night ahead of us actually, because as of recording this, it'll already be announced by the time this comes out. But we're just about to announce THAC 2023. Which I'm once again hosting.
24-hour animation contest for those
prepping for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, good way to advertise yourself. But yeah.
As long as people have been listening for 2.5 hours, they'll hear our THAC 2023 plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. No kidding.
I forgot. I wanted to do it at the beginning, but no. Yeah. So yeah, so we're working on that. So that's gonna be exciting.
Yeah,
And
so that'll be
so
the
we still
the
got
7th and 8th of January. So hopefully this comes out before then.
Okay. Yeah, I should hope so. Um,
cool.
well, awesome. I'll include that in
Mhm.
the description as well. Just like,
Yeah.
hey guys,
And of
stay
course, you know,
tuned.
I mean, I
But
like to provide context just in case there's people listening who've never heard of any of this stuff before. But you know, tech has been a
yeah,
fixture on Bricks in Motion for years and years, and yeah, it's the biggest, or actually, I can't quite call it the biggest contest on the site anymore because the last brawl actually beat the TAC record. But
yeah,
it's let's say it's tied with Brawl for being the biggest contest on the site, and it's you know
yeah,
And we need to reclaim the
oh yeah,
us,
yeah.
you know.
Maybe
Like
we'll
I'm gonna
see. Who
try.
knows if we'll beat the brawl record or not? But you know, I never like to
Hmm.
say. I never like to
Oh yeah,
say. Let's hope we beat the record, because then if you don't, then it's like oh wah wah. But I don't know. Previously we've been on a
yeah,
pretty nice streak of beating previous records. Although it has to, it'll you know
yeah,
it ebbs and flows. But yeah. So
yeah.
TAC is just TAC is like the number one sort of community. As far as I'm concerned, as far as a lot of other people are concerned, it's a major
Yeah.
community event that like sometimes people say like, oh, you know, are you even really a brick filmer if you've never entered tech?
Yeah. It's a Thack and Brawl and all those contests are such a great way to just get your foot in the door, I feel like, too, with the community and actually guarantee that
Will
your
be
stuff
seen,
will
yeah,
get
yeah,
seen.
yeah. Because I mean,
You
as
know,
as
and
soon as the
so
contest
it's a
ends, people
nice,
are demanding. They're saying, "Where's the playlist? Where's the playlist?" You know,
yeah, yeah.
we love watching the full playlist. So yeah, like people entering contests, yeah, their
Mhm.
stuff does get seen. It gets more views.
Yeah, there you go. It's the dopamine hit. Um, oh, you guys, I'm so glad that you guys were willing to chat with me. I wanted to, chat with you guys for a long time and kind of pick your brains on a few of these things, and it was an absolute pleasure. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you sticking around for 2.5 hours of
Yeah, so
conversation.
thanks for having us on.
Um, and of
We
course, I'll
love
have to
we love
maybe do
talking
it
about
again
this stuff.
sometime.
Yeah, it's no
Yeah,
surprise that you have to
it's
just sort of cut us off after a while.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I didn't think that that would happen where I'd be the one kind of like hitting the stop button, but it's great. I am looking forward to. I think a lot of people are gonna love this episode, and I do feel like there's a lot of gold for aspiring brick filmers to listen to and just to learn about the
I hope
history.
so. Yeah.
So,
Hopefully, yeah. I guess
well, you
you do have
guys,
sort of an audience that's pretty much in a separate world to us, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, there is. It is like there is a Twisted Bricks
Yeah,
bubble it's
yeah,
even
yeah.
beyond
Even just
Twisted
sort of
Bricks.
like
Just
very
there is
gory
like
Rick films is its own bubble.
yeah, yeah, yeah. People who are really into like zombies and demons and like Lego gore. There's a
Hmm.
cluster of us. Um, I don't know if you guys know VPLO
Yeah, actually,
Studios.
I'm
I
pretty
feel
sure he
like
entered
he,
either a Brawl or Attack a couple of years ago, and that would have been the first time I became aware of him. Yeah.
yeah, let's say him and then like Star Wars Studio. There's like, I kind of view them as my direct colleagues and
Hmm.
competitors. So it's something
Yeah.
there. Anyway, thanks again, guys. You have a great night. We'll stay in
Thank you.
touch.
Bye.
Thank you.